thing.
Alright, I'm starting up the audio
Alright,
now.
everybody stop being offensive.
Especially Hatdan. Hatdan, please stop being offensive.
Well, if I
haven't been paying attention. Are we supposed to be offensive?
Offensive jokes. How am I supposed to? Ooh, coffee.
Guys are
Is
all
this the offensive time? I haven't been paying attention.
Oh, I just got a message on Twitch. My friend Alairan has just started watching. And there's like a little hand and a wave. It's so cute.
Aww.
Oh, Jesus Christ,
friend?
I had the Twitch audio going as well. That was madness.
Welcome to madness.
I was like, why are so many people talking at once? Why can I hear people twice? Oh, God.
Okay, those of you who are...
my friend Tinker just started watching. Yay.
So I don't know necessarily who is currently watching. Does it normally provide you a watch list? Yeah, it looks like 13 watching now thing. Okay, great.
Oh, there's actually people watching? Crap.
Yeah, because I posted it up on the Tumblies.
Why did you post it
Speaking of which...
How do I change
I
my
care, so
avatar?
I care. Hang on a second, I'm going to post additional
understand
links on the Tumblies.
Yeah, fine, you post
Hello.
additional links. I don't...
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do that thing right now.
I'm going to just look at this document you sent me.
I'm doing it.
It gave me an ad for Sugar Chris talking about Riot Gaming doing a thing.
Nice.
Smart, how do I change my avatar and not ready? To go out of the room.
You have to go out of the room to go change it. And do it in your profile.
God.
I know. They really need to make it so you can have like individual icons for individual games because that would be great. Roll20 if you're listening. And I know you're not.
If you decided to tune in, Roll20, you should do that.
Roll20 if you know and you want to know how to make me happy. I mean, you make me happy in a lot of ways, but one of the things you can do, Windows Phone support and Surface support and the individual icons for games.
Individual icons, right? That's what we're getting from this. Individual icons.
I got sidetracked, but just in case Roll20 ever slips. Did you get it
while you're
up?
at it, World Hunger, get on that one.
No, I don't really care about that one.
Jeez.
There's too many people in the world.
For the moon.
Right after.
I don't want the moon. I've seen what's growing on it.
Sailors.
Nice. Okay.
Said Brandy.
I think we lost 2 people.
Okay, well, she's a fine girl.
Yeah.
What a good wife she would be.
The only way to end this is with a joke about Svi being
should we make it just the simple my life, my love, and my lady?
Is the Svi. See, I'm running into the stupid thing where Roll20 isn't loading again. God damn it.
It's not loading? What did you need it for?
Yeah. Not much, but it bugs me when it isn't, because I thought I might need to use a dice. Alright, I'll just leave it be.
Okay.
Also, he needs to witness our dice.
Alright,
witness me!
So
I guess I'll put away the chrome paint.
This is our player base for campaign number XB712 or something like that. We have begun a new one here. This is a character generation process for 2.0. Many of the people in this room, i.e. all the people in this room, have been through the early beta or alpha stages of this test process, so they're fairly familiar with where things are going. But the way that we've been doing this, and the way that it's been progressing, is that we'll run games, we'll run solo games, combats, full campaigns, and stuff like that. And every time we find new stuff to factor in, I will write up new rules and adjust things based on what I'm seeing and what people are saying. And we start feeling like we're getting closer to success the fewer times I have to go back and rewrite chapters. That is a kind of decent model of if we can get through entire games in which everything worked out exactly as designed, or rather more like the design worked out as envisioned, then tests are more successful. And we're getting further and further along that path. Character generation has gotten pretty close to where it doesn't need to be touched anymore. I won't commit to it never being touched anymore because new ideas pop in all the time and I occasionally revisit stuff, but at the moment it's got a pretty good pattern to it. So you will witness it. And you will witness a little bit of staged waiting because chances are, I think a lot of people have gotten through a lot of this process even before we started here today.
Don't tell them, we can act.
Don't tell them. But I will go through step by step. There might be a little visual lag on what you're seeing because you were actually watching a stream from one of the players, same as streaming for us, because I'm just not equipped for it at the moment. So hopefully she will follow visual cues, or audio cues rather, and put up things on the screen that have something to do.
I am, in fact, someone of short attention span and may start playing Cookie Clicker, if not continue to be broad.
Do not use your Cookie Clicker.
So the attention span is, equivalent of the correct height.
To Sam's side.
Just for that, I'm playing Cookie Clicker.
No, turn off the clicking of the cookies.
You're not my dad.
Well, there is something we've been meaning to tell you.
I have a question for the creator before we begin.
Uh-huh.
Why do you prevent my Munchkin builds?
Because that is an attempt. Okay, so another thing to mention.
Dual wielding bows would have been great.
Dual wielding bows would not have been great. You're all fired.
It would have been amazing.
Out of a bow, actually. We are actually working on this particular campaign is going to be played on the quote higher level. They're advanced characters. The game 2.0 still doesn't have a level system, but it does have an experience system. So growth is a bit more of a measurable thing as opposed to a vaporous thing like it was in the first one. And the characters that we're building for this particular campaign are advanced. So they're going to be starting at a stronger level than we usually are. So that lengthens a little bit of character creation because you have to make more choices up front, but it gives you an opportunity to test things at the high end, which we actually haven't done too much of so far. It's been down at kind of the starting and mid-range. So this will be the first campaign run at the, I don't know, level 16 equivalent or something, if you want to go off a D&D standard, give or take. This is the sort of characters that don't have a whole lot of growth left to do. They do still have growth options, but they are pretty much where they want to be in terms of. I would expect a lot of campaigns to kind of end at this point, unless you wanted to play a particularly high ranked one. So we will check things out from this level. It means we get to fight some big stuff and have some overwhelming dice rolls. Which I think will kind of be entertaining. People can exert their will over the world around them pretty heavily at this particular stage. So what you're looking at the screen right now is the character progression chart. This is a new page. I think you've probably seen this in earlier beta tests for this particular system. This is kind of how you map experience. It's not the character sheet. It's like the second page of the character sheet. But you see up there at the top, there's these little circles, have these little 10s and these 20s and stuff like that. Those are representing experience points that you're spending. You can put little check boxes into each of these little areas where it says like D10 or 3 proficiencies or proficiency or certification up there in Mind Exert, and that allows you to buy abilities for your character. That's basically how progression works. As you're awarded experience, you get to travel down this chart and buy different abilities in the areas that you want to be. And as you're buying abilities, you'll be awarded more dice. You'll be able to do different things inside the game. So everybody kind of progresses down the chart at the same rate, but where you decide to spend your points is up to you, and that's how you get a lot of character individualization. So that's one aspect of how the system works. The other aspects about how the system works that are different, I'd say, from current systems, other role-playing game systems and stuff, is your dice growth, the amount of dice that you're rolling in order to take care of tasks and attack and combat and stuff like that. That's pretty steady across every character. As you're all progressing the same, unless you choose to really spread out or something, you're probably going to all end up with more or less the same levels of dice being rolled, meaning that even characters who aren't trained in combat can be rolling the same number of dice as characters who are trained in combat, which means nobody's a liability. The way that you make yourself interesting and more powerful in things like combat versus a character who wants to be kind of the skill monkey or the non-combat gifted but the ability gifted character is you buy things like focus abilities on one side and certifications on the other side. Certifications are powers that are only usable in combat that allow you to do things like use your weapon in different ways or do special techniques, stack damage differently, do all kinds of fancy kickflips and cool stuff specifically for combat. These are the sorts of things that you will want to get as a combat-heavy character that will make your combat creative and give you opportunities where a non-combat heavy character will only have the opportunity to fire, basically. For people who want to be the skill monkeys and things of that nature, you look at the focus ability side, which are out of combat abilities that give you a lot of the stuff that you saw in the previous game, plus a whole bunch of new options too, and allow you to stack your skills in certain ways. So you are customizing your combat potential and your out of combat potential based on powers that you're buying and unique techniques that you're buying, as opposed to just dice that are going in there. The way that you build the I don't ever want to get into combat character is through roleplay. Don't get into combat. that is your decision to make as a person. So you can do that. Okay.
It's not always the best idea to build that concept.
Okay,
I think Hatdan there, whose character last campaign was a non-combatant in the sense that he ran away from everything, was probably the one that came closest to dying on the more occasions as he got cornered and chased.
Yep.
But on that note, there are now multiple abilities that you can use as somebody who's not shooting a gun that will allow you to assist your other players. This is something I really wanted to pull in from the first system, and it's gotten better in this one. You can add to other people's die rolls as somebody who's shouting help and giving tips in combat. You can do commands, and you can also contribute in other ways. There are even weapons that only do status effects that will help your other team out. So there are plenty of fun ways to not shoot people if that's the way you want to go. Anywho, that said, I think we can get started. So we will pull up the character sheet creator device, i.e. the PDF.
Oh, yeah. I got the PDF up, sorry. Do you want me to get the image, the character sheet up instead?
Go ahead and put the PDF up really quick just to show people. Then there's a lot of lag. Okay, there we go.
I put it right at the new character generation part.
There we go. Okay, so we're all operating off a PDF, which is this 200-page long document right now. Has all the new rules, or a lot of the new rules. Doesn't have everything that's going to go into it yet, but it's plenty to play with for the time being. And we will begin the character generation process. So, select family and species. Previously, family and species were separate things that both give you separate boons and family abilities, or that they both give you separate abilities, and you picked from a list of different species in 1.0. There was like 4 of them plus a generic type. And what was discovered was that everybody was picking the generic and they were all going with whatever they wanted to do, which is all well and good, but it defeats the purpose of having a list. So we've pulled the list away. There are now families, and the species that you pick inside the family is entirely up to you anyway. The abilities just come from the family that you pick. So you would select your family and your species. It's all the ones that were there before, including the ones that were in Core Extended. Those will all be in the base book for this. And this determines a few things for you. It gives you what's called a boon, which is a sort of helpful thing for your dice rolling. Some family abilities that are specific to the family that you pick. And it will determine what reclamation abilities you get. Reclamation abilities, as opposed to the surgeries that you paid for last time, are now kind of automatic. Pulse awards them to you as you get better as a way to sort of like pimp their product. So you're living the great life kind of thing, and you can go in and basically cash in your I'm a cool person points to get free surgeries. So everybody will get nifty abilities. Cogs will get a equivalent to this when they're tossed in as well from ASR. So everybody will get fun toys. So to start off with, we will have players pick their families. What did everybody want to be?
Well,
so go ahead. Pull up your character sheet so that folks can see the character sheet.
Okay, I'll pull the character sheet. Character sheet.
I'm holding up my character sheet to the camera. It doesn't seem to be working.
Hatdan, you're doing it badly.
I'm just rubbing the phone where I have it up on the screen against the monitor.
Calm down now.
Whoa.
It's not working well. It's not transferring. Speed help. Speed help.
Down, Cronos, down.
Speed help.
I'm not doing it right. Okay. So Ali had a character family. What was your family?
I have chosen Ungulate. Ungulate.
Ungulate, that fake word that they use?
Yes.
The
species, I'm going with the secondary order to be a cow.
Mo?
Yes.
Fair enough.
She's got
grabbed a cow. So that is a standard species for that. So there are multiple options within the way that you handle species now. There is a just general species that you can pick, and that has all sort of the options that were there before, plus anything else that you feel would fit within the species of the family you're selecting. So cow works fine. For that one, horse and deer and stuff, those were all basic species choices. And again, you can sub in anyone you want to in 2.0 as opposed to just grabbing from a list. But there's also a thing called orders that was kind of introduced in Core Extended to handle seals and raccoons and a few other choices here. But what it does now is it allows you to pick a species that you think relates not necessarily genetically to a family, but perhaps emotionally based on the stereotypes of the family, or maybe just in your head canon you think that they would sort of join up with this particular group, and they were like one-offs that didn't catch on. Really low population, not big enough to be categorized as a whole family on its own. Again, the raccoons and the seals or stuff like that, they were adopted by families and are now considered to be a small part of this larger family that they're attached to. And that is a separation from the blips that came in Core Extended. So now we have a distinction between what is another anthropomorphized character like a pangolin or an armadillo or something that, kangaroo, something that you wanted to run, versus a blip, which is really supposed to be a custom creature. Something fantasy, something made up, a real one-off. So you have that distinction.
It's the difference between a very rare type of vector and a custom created thing.
Yeah, pretty much. So if you wanted to do things like kangaroos that you did not, giraffes that you didn't see in the previous game system, they are now doable now as orders, and they slot right in there with the families. And so you had a cow as a species. Who else do we have pick stuff?
I have Rodentia hamster.
Okay, so hamster. But also I would call that a species choice. Right. So what else we got? Hatdan.
I am being
Canadian.
very, very patriotic for this game, which is so surprising as I was in no way highlighting my Canadianness before.
No, yeah, your beaver was very un-Canadian. Congratulations.
Yeah. And I am going with a moose, which after researching, I found out is actually a part of the deer family in the first place. So this would make me also ungulate.
All right. So we got two of those. And then we have Cronos is playing as what?
I'm a bear.
Oh, bear. And a particular type of bear?
A very large grizzly bear.
Largest of grizzly bears. And then we have Toby is playing as what?
I have decided to go with Mooselid and Skunk.
All right. Oh, then we have a very wrong icon up here. Sam, you did it badly.
What?
Wrong icon. My icon's incredibly wrong.
Hey, I cannot help it that Allie
picture.
has changed what she is, like all the way down to the wire.
The one I see up for Toby is a bunny.
Now, just wait.
Oh, no, wait.
We should probably talk about morphisms now.
There we go. Yeah, fair enough. Touche. I get it, you see, because the touche there has this fuzzy thing that's going off camera. I understand.
Yeah.
See what happened? Look, my little face thing has gone from being surprised to annoyed. It's working perfectly.
Don't you love that I set that up? It really conveys your emotions from moments. There it goes again.
I feel like I have to try to keep up with it though. Like, oh, what is this? It's like pops the pit. No, there's no. Okay, apparently I should drop it. Yeah, there we go.
Knock it off.
Yeah, and I'm also seeing it with lag, so it's probably not. God, she's having digestive trouble. All right, we may have to fix this.
Oh my.
Okay, so all right, we've picked family. And
someone has stepped on Snick.
Oh no! With the entire digestive trouble, it's just like, oh, okay, that's bad. Oh god, it's stuck. Why won't this end? And then it's just like, nothing's wrong.
We're all good. Isn't that the way though? Moving on.
One of the things
after you've picked it,
one of the things we get to pick a boon.
Mm-hmm.
And do we get faults from our choice too, right?
No, the faults come from other areas right now. So you get the faults there too. Yeah, boon fault selection right there.
Okay.
So we should go look into what those are. God, I gotta close this window. Apparently, there's something blooming outside. I'm gonna
So to make it easy for you, if we're going to look at each of the species or families, the boon fault selection, for instance, for since I'm talking, let's talk with Canada, would be express, athletics, and survival are the three options that are given there.
Before we hop into that, though, we should probably explain what they are. So go to the character sheet.
Okay. I will open up.
We'll show how dice rolling works. Yeah.
I will zoom in on the character sheet. Okay, I zoomed in.
I'm waiting for the screen to catch up.
It'll get there.
This is how we calculate Twitch's lag. It's about 20 seconds. It's pretty. It's pretty good. Okay. So yeah, if you look down the little DNA strand there in the middle, you will note this looks a little different, or significantly different, rather, from 1.0. The way that it operates isn't all that different. It's just pared down from the way it was before. And in order to save space in the character sheet and make it a little bit visually more understandable, it's gone from putting in dots to actually just writing down numbers. So whereas before we had 5 different traits that were inside 4 different stat columns, we now have 3 different stat columns. The economy stat column was dropped out. Because it just wasn't, it was an experiment in seeing if how we could make money work as sort of a fun idea for a character dynamic, and a few people liked it, but the majority of responses I was getting was that it wasn't really all that playable. It was causing more confusion and annoyance than actual fun, and that's not what we want. So we have other ways to play with money now that don't involve the stats. So the stats are now just body and mind and community. Within them, there are 3 different traits. There's exert, endure, and perceive, which means basically do and get hit by something and see something. So they're pretty straightforward. They're easy to understand, and it's much easier now to pair them up with specific actions for understanding what it is that you need to do. So on that note, most checks, all checks actually, basic checks are done with D10s. As opposed to before, you used to separate out D10s and then D12s and D8s on things that you were good at for specific stats. What that was turning into was that people who wanted to be good in, say, body because they wanted to be good at, I don't know, flying, something like that, something that was a body trait, were also inherently really good at punching people, and it didn't necessarily translate really well. Because the things that you were training for didn't necessarily cross with skills in quite the way that we wanted to, that I wanted to. I keep like pluraling for whatever reason. It's because I've had a lot of help with this. So in order to change that, what we've got now is with boons and faults and specific proficiencies. So all of the stats are in D10s, but if you do specific actions, like say you look at the green that you're seeing on the screen right now for dexterity, express, logic, if it has a boon in it, you can use a D12 on that specific action. If it has a fault in it, you use a D8 on that specific action. So your characters are now good and bad at specific things as opposed to generic things, which gives you a bit more variety on what you are good and bad at. So the families, when you select them, give you 3 different options of proficiencies. You have to pick 1 boon and 2 faults out of those options. The order that you pick them in is really up to you. So you get to determine which one you want to be good at, which ones you want to be bad at. And it's worth noting at this stage that as opposed to 1.0, where things like your education was built in with the corp, and there wasn't much changing it after the fact, once we get finished with all these boons and faults and powers and stuff that we're getting from families, you will then have an opportunity to spend experience anywhere you want to, and you can undo things or redo things or adjust stuff. This gives you a starting point that you can then counteract if you want to, or grow further. So you have the opportunity to do stuff on your own instead of having it dictated entirely by the generation process too. So where we were determining for species, right? For family?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So everybody can go ahead and pick their stuff. Sam, since your sheet is up, what were you doing for the rodentine?
I think we decided hamster was order, I think, right?
No, it's just a species.
It was just species. Anyway, yeah. I took repair as my boon, and I took survival and operate. So it was just whether or not it was science or repair.
Okay.
Yeah, I took that as a good, and then I took the other 2 as my faults.
Okay.
Do
so
not let me drive things.
That you can see is operate, survival, and repair. So she can choose which one of those she wants to be good and which one of those she wants to be not so good. Same is true of everybody else. So did you all pick where you wanted to put your stuff?
Yes. Yep. I have picked up a boon in manipulate and am thus bad at security and survival.
Sweet.
I am bad at manipulate, but good at security. Also bad at survival.
I am good at search and bad at science and express.
I took my boon in operate, and I took my faults in security and craft.
Okay, to be everybody. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because Alaika's not in this one. Okay, cool. So that is a start on that one. So the next step is picking the morphism. Morphisms are a lot like they were before. The major changes are that momentum is no longer a factor in this. What we were discovering with momentum was it was hard to keep track of, and that a lot of people were kind of bothered by some just kind of not balancing with the other ones that they wanted to do. So there are other options in the game now in the certification section that behave a lot like some of those momentum powers. So you will still get that sort of experience, but it's not linked to the morphism like it was before. Morphism does still contain your shape, how many hexes you control on the board. It also contains something new called mass, which determines how easy or difficult you are to hit, also how hard you hit people back when you're running into them, and your overall hit point total. So your size and your shape are a pretty big deal for your overall footprint on the world and also in combat. Also, the morphisms have the same sort of things they had before in terms of whether or not you're biased against when you're talking to people in social situations, and a few other special abilities related to whatever type of creature you are.
We have a question in the Twitch. Dimension Satar was asking if we could clear something up about, because I made the joke about driving things, which I will clarify. Up until recently, the pilot skill didn't exist, and it was operate. And so I'm kind of still in that mindset. Pilot is actually for driving, I think.
We actually, I reinstated pilot recently into the testing. We had pilot removed originally because it was attached to a focus ability that you can get. But what I was discovering in the test game that we ran, that Sam ran a little while ago, was that it's a little detrimental to lock the plot to whether or not people are having pre-purchased certifications and focus abilities. It's easier with certifications because that's just combat-based, but when the focus ability is something like you cannot fly this ship unless you have this focus ability, then your plot is kind of locked to that problem. Whereas if you have a pilot skill, then you can roll badly and crash, but at least you can proceed down the ability of possibly being able to fly a ship. There is a degree of lacked realism with this, as I think these are supposed to be complex objects, and it seems rather unlikely that somebody can hop into one and suddenly be able to fly it. But in terms of fun, I think a lot of the science fiction that we've sort of experienced over the course of our lives of engaging with media have kind of given us this idea of, if you are a fairly savvy person, you can leap into the cockpit of just about anything and with a lot of luck get it off the ground. So that's sort of the concept behind putting the pilot skill back in. It also separates itself from operate a little bit. Operate was becoming a bit too catch-all. So the proficiency list has dropped down significantly since 1.0. So a lot of things kind of hop over to do multiple things, but operate was doing too much. It was allowing people to be really good at running machines whilst also being really good at flying ships, and those two skill sets are pretty different. So they got split up.
Nah, you pull the levers, you make it go.
Yeah, right.
Beep, beep, I'm a Jeep.
On that note, if you have a large ship that has multiple crew, like multiple people on the bridge, there will be differences between piloting and operating. So that is something that will be tossed into the rule set eventually. Pilots kind of take that back.
I assume operating is best explained as sitting with a microphone in one's ear, telling the captain occasionally that someone is hailing you.
Something like that, right? Using the console as directed, as opposed to using the console as Riker would, which is considered athletics.
I thought that was only the Riker sit.
Yeah, the Riker sit. All right.
Yeah. Morphisms?
So pick your guys' morphisms. Dudes,
I'm taking two morphisms.
Oh my god.
My god. Yeah, that is worth noting. There are rules in place for taking multiple morphisms now. So people, everybody kind of did it during 1.0 anyway, and they did it pretty much the way that it's handled at this point. You have one that is your morphism and one that is an aesthetic, if you want to. So if you feel like being a tiny tar, you can do that. You can take tarism and microism, and there's a little guide on which one of those takes precedence and which one of them is just for appearance.
I am curious as to which one would take precedence in that case.
Yeah, tiny tar.
They're both
the microism. Yeah, because if the microism was an aesthetic thing and your main one was tar, then what would it do? because the tar makes you big.
Fair enough.
Basically, you're supposed to determine which one of these is going to have the greatest impact on your everyday existence. And in the case of microwism, that one pretty much always takes precedence because you're tiny and the rest of the world is huge.
Really,
And being
micro's
tiny,
not
it would
that
shift you
big.
down into 1 hex, so you may as well just go with microism anyway.
I think between micro and hemi, hemi's really the one that's going to be the most, profound change
Oh,
for my character.
micro
And
always
I
wins.
do appreciate that you do address that here in the brief that you've given us, explaining, for instance, the idea that there is atypical patterning as one of the morphisms you can take, which is less of an important body morphism than something like
Taoism.
Taoism. Yes.
Right. So there is a degree of talk to your guide involved with this, and that's so that I don't end up having to write an array for you guys to cross-reference and be like, is this going to affect this and stuff. Tables are great. In fact, we use tables in a lot of the combat for this system to handle damage, but there are certain situations like this one where they can really take a backseat to logic. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to say that your Taoism is less important to your life than the fancy patterns on your fur that get covered up by your clothes every day. Right? The one that matters is the one that takes up 2 hexes and gives you 4 legs. The other one is just a look. So
What happens if you're naked all the time?
then I still
Then
think
you're a
it's
lateral, and you're going to get cited for indecent exposure.
also that. So on the topic of morphisms, I'll go ahead and as I keep interrupting people, you can pick your deals now.
I took Digigrade, so just plain old vanilla.
Great.
I am doing the same thing.
You normies.
You guys are boring. I have to take extra morphisms just to make up for you people.
To be
fair, I used to be a lateral.
I will try and spice things up. I will take hooves
My God.
and
Legs of a different flavor.
Yes, and as a good moose, I will also take protrusions.
Now, which
I
one
have
is your?
antlers. My primary, I believe, the most important of these two would be the hooves.
Okay.
It will have likely the greatest effect on the playability aspect in that.
Behooves you to take that. Yeah.
Yes.
Huh. I apologize, but that is a nice point to bring up. One of the things that comes up with the horns, in order to stick with the quote realism of the setting, obviously it's got a little bit of a shakiness on realism because it's supposed to be a fun game. But fitting horns and stuff into helmets and things of that nature has always been a bit of a sticky point for characters that want to play that. And HSD in the lore uses holograms to make up for that. But if you're using horns as if for instance, you're playing a character like this moose, and the horns are there for the sake of funny narrative and character appearance and stuff like that, you don't want to have to bother automatically cutting off the thing that makes you interesting. Using it as an appearance thing basically allows you to hand wave their existence. You won't get them as a benefit in any particular way, but you can say you have horns and they somehow fit in the helmet, and nobody's going to have to worry about that because they're there for the fun of it. So using that as a secondary kind of bypasses having to be concerned about that sort of thing, which I think is personally okay in scenarios that are supposed to be fun and fancy-ish. Actually, your superhero game with Mutants and Masterminds does the same thing with superhero outfits, which I think is probably the best way to handle it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, behooves, it was a pun, I get it.
It's funny. Funny joke.
Wearing your superhero outfit doesn't take damage because that is the nature of superhero outfits.
Unless you're Ellie.
Most of the morphisms give us an additional fault.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also give us a perk and a drawback, right?
Yep.
As well as a bias.
Some of them. Yeah, not all of them, but a bunch of them have the biases on them. So biases are the social thing. The additional fault is usually based on how your body works. If your body makes you inherently not that great on something, for instance, the fault for microism is in athletics. You can have a very fit micro, but it's still not going to equate somebody who's 10 feet taller than they are. I don't know why I picked 10. I guess 5 is more accurate. Not 10. Why not? It's a really small micro.
Yeah.
5 feet, 10 feet, it's all the same when you're like foot tall.
Yeah. So that is where the fault comes from. So at the end of this process, after you've picked your morphism, you will have several faults available, more than you have boons. And it will actually be your corporate education that kind of closes that gap and gets your boons and faults equal together.
By the way, what morphism has Toby taken?
I have taken hybrid.
Ooh.
So will it be hybrid bunny skunk?
Skunk rabbit.
Okay. I've determined it's bunny. I've said it twice now.
Bunny.
AKA, he's a bunk.
Rockin' and rolling
So, corporations.
down to the beach. I'm strolling. All right, so I'm scrolling. Actually, I'm scrolling
that
down.
actually brings up a good question. That actually brings up a question for me.
What,
Because
sequels?
of background and corporations.
History. Okay, so that's where we're at now. Do you want to wait until we did this, or what was your question?
Well, once we get into it, I'll bring it up because one of the backgrounds actually somewhat conflicts with education. So I wanted to touch base with you on that.
All right, I'll have a look at that and see what's up with that. Okay, so history. History is the next section here. I'll wait for the thingy to catch up to it so I can show it really quick. History introduces a few things that are new to this system that weren't there in the previous one, specifically backgrounds. So motivations are still a part of the system, and they are in the history section. But one thing that I discovered earlier playing around with was it was actually more fun to have a background section that gave you a sort of concept of where your character came from and certain abilities based on stuff they already knew before the game had begun, than it was to give them abilities based on motivation. So motivation actually is just sort of a guide to tell you how to play your character, that you select so that the DM, the guide, and the GM, however, what word you want to use, I'll lock you to it, will be able to tell if you are playing the character concept that you had wanted to play in a way that is, true to the character. Because we all get sidetracked from time to time and go, oh, this is a great sort of meta idea. Maybe I should do this. But, the guy can go, hey, your motivation is saying that right now you should probably be thinking this thing over here, and it helps keep you on track. It doesn't actually equate to any ability. The background does. So there are lots of different background options. And there's a whole list of different background options. You got wealthy, dubious origin, tragedy, military, all sorts of fun stuff in here. Inside the backgrounds are polarities. There is a positive polarity and a negative polarity. This is a description of whether or not your background, the stuff that you came from in your past, was something that you recall as a positive experience or a negative experience. If it is a neutral experience for you, that's also fine, but you typically call that positive just because it isn't actually actively harming you. So if you're a character with a negative background experience, you get this active ability that you can activate during the game for a limited time per episode. That lets you use this ability that you have limited use of because it is actively painful to call back on it. Like if you had this background experience that was negative and stuff, you don't want to be using it fairly often. It's generally a pretty powerful ability. Sam's got the haunted thing passed up right now, and you can see first passive, second passive, third passive, and active. The active at the bottom is the one that you would get if you had a negative history with this haunted thing. If you have a positive history, you would get these passive abilities, which do not have limitations on their use, but you don't get them all at once. As your character grows, you'll unlock more and more of them because they basically go through life looking back to their past and going, oh, that thing I experienced actually helped me here, and I've gotten something new from it, sort of deal. So your selection of abilities changes based on whether or not you had a good background or bad background, and it's really up to you to determine how your history has affected your character. And don't be too quick to rush into which ones are the ones to pick. One of the big things with backgrounds is that all of the abilities, the passive ones and the active ones, are all very situational. They're not going to pop up in every game. They're really here for flavor. So if you're looking for the ideal or the Munchkin build or whatever it was you're going to get it, your background's really not going to factor into it in any significant fashion because they're all situational situations. What you want to do is have one that matches the idea that you had in your head, so that when a situation in the game pops up that feels like your character would naturally have something related to it, you'll look back at your background and go, oh, I do. I can actually call on this in some way. That is the ideal. You also don't want to automatically assume that the things you're reading here are hued in one way or another toward positive or negative. Like I think there's an example here at the front where maybe your background consisted of like your family being killed. That obviously sounds negative, but it is possible to play an optimistic character that has learned and grown from that situation and actually views their entire experience since that point as positive. And that is a way to flavor yourself, and it's totally viable. These choices are up to you.
Just because your parents were murdered in front of you does not mean you have to be Batman.
You have to be Batman, right? I
But
think
that's
it's
a
important that you
positive
understand
experience.
Where's
that Batman
Harvey?
was psychotic. Right, dramatic example, yes, but the point being that you are ultimately the one who determines which side of the scale you're going to be on. So, as long as
That's
you
the
play
difference
through
between Batman and Spider-Man, really.
yeah, fair enough, right? That's a pretty good example. Spider-Man is somebody who did have a negative experience for it, but came out of it fairly positive. Obviously, he still has trauma involved with it, but he kind of got onto this. This is not a character that strikes fear into the heart of man thing. They have moved on to be heroic in other ways. Okay, so who picked what?
Obviously, the key between a positive and a negative is a butler.
And uncles, yes,
And Martha.
and Martha.
Why do you say Martha?
Aunt May.
Right. I will start off the listing of backgrounds then, I suppose. And I will say that I chose a positive military background.
Okay. So included in the positive military is the first ability. So like I said, the positive abilities are things that you get over time. We're starting with pretty advanced characters, so chances are you have at least the second ability, if not the third.
Most of us had third, I think.
Yeah, or probably all the way up to the third. This gives them the ability to identify civilian and military equipment without having to do a check, which is pretty neat. It gives you the ability to discern combat value, which is something new to this system. It's kind of like it's close to the CR rating that expect from D&D, but not quite as exact. It's designed to be a little floaty. So you can get a pretty good idea just based on looking at an enemy, how tough they are, which is pretty handy. And the third passive is very nice for people that are running with heavy munitions and stuff because it allows you to transfer weaponry across areas through transport without having to do things like hide them or smuggle them or something like that. So handy things to have.
Sweet.
Who else did people fix?
I took Scholar. Positive Scholar. I figured it fit with the character's learning for being a presenter. She had to have the knowledge first.
Okay. Actually, this is a pretty good time to figure out whose characters are what in terms of story, because this is sort of where you start deciding that for backgrounds. So, Hatdan, what is your character? What is their history here?
I am a former wannabe. Wish I could still be considered
Don't say Monty.
a beat cop for the IRPF.
Okay.
I've been disgraced, but it was totally not my fault.
What was the disgracement?
Bumbling incompetence in a major security breach due to trusting people you probably shouldn't have.
Fair enough. So you failed a check in a previous game. A very important check. And we're drummed out of the Mounties.
I'd like to think that I ran into you in a previous life. That NPC, we did that thing too. They were like, oh man, that guy's gonna get fired.
We did that to a lot of people.
Has the unfortunate history of having played with this party in the past. That's the only reason why he was drummed out of the service.
Oh.
All right, Ali, what was
They
your...
cut drums.
My character was a presenter on a kids' science show on, say, AMARSCO or ASR Network. And she was quite knowledgeable in what she was teaching. And she just had an unfortunate mishap during the recording that got her fired.
All right. Mishaps that we will learn more about later. Amateur So we have two things. So what's going on here? And this is a good thing for people who are actually just not experienced in RPGs in general, because I know a few of the people watching right now haven't played in a game before and are hoping to start one soon. They are writing hooks into the background. Hooks in the background are very nice things to have because it means that the DM isn't stuck going, okay, so why are you here? And your character's going, well, I don't know, I don't have to be here. Well, then why are you here? This is a really frustrating thing for any sort of guide to have to deal with in any game system. And it happens very, very often with apathetic characters or characters that don't have any kind of need written to their background. Background is important, but it's really not imperative for any character. The most important part of the background is why it isn't the foreground. If your background is so currently active and satisfying that it is the only reason why you would be doing anything, there isn't much drive for you to join up with 4 other people and go off on an adventure, is there?
Such as wealthy.
Yeah, right. So you really need to have something in there that determines why it is you still need help with something. It doesn't need to be pressing. It doesn't, it could just be you're out doing it for fun, or maybe you need a little more spice in your life. It doesn't need to be this life-changing experience, but as long as there's something there to grab onto, you will have a much easier time meshing with a party. If you want for nothing in your background, it's really difficult to get attached to another group of characters that all want for something, because there isn't a whole lot of reason for you to be there. So we have two characters here that are currently out of jobs and are at a loss in their life because they have left the things that they were previously either good at or passable at, depending on the moose's story.
I resent the implication. I was amazing.
All right, so what else we got?
I have haunted. Which everybody could probably figure out because I keep coming back to haunted.
We should actually talk about that shift from morphism to
oh yeah, that is a slightly different thing. If you read the Core Extended book, you may recall the morphism for Followed that had the shadow that was a different flavor of shadows normally thing. You know how most shadows work with physics, and this one was like, no, screw physics. I don't want to have none of that physics stuff here. I'm going to be a better shadow. That was a morphism before, but it was a morphism that was a result of very specific situations. And what was kind of felt as I switched over to this new system was that a lot of people who wanted to run that morphism also wanted to run other ones, physical ones like Tarism or anything else, right? And by putting it into background, we can actually embody the idea of this has been a contributing factor to your life for a very long time. And also you can have a physical appearance that is different as well. So that just got moved. It's now called Haunted, and it doesn't necessarily have to be directly shadow related. It can manifest in all sorts of different ways. So the Followed is still the most common one, or at least the most recognizable one, but you can have things like weird reflections, or strange things that happen with, other events in the air, stuff like that. Any place you want to flavor it, you can use it that way. So Sam had Haunted. What was the deal there?
Penny was from a small family, and her father, since he was a very busy fellow with Marsco, had to leave her in a care facility 3495. The care facilities are, from what I know, fairly automated. There's some people involved. For some reason, a transcendent event went off near the building, and it caused extensive damage to the building and the death of several staff. The children were evacuated en masse, and unfortunately Penny wasn't noticed when she was left behind. Aww. She was found unconscious later, and her reflection was changed forever.
So Sam is using reflection as opposed to shadow to represent the haunted effect. Was this a positive or negative?
It's actually positive because she is insatiably curious, and Penny loves to get more information.
So because she wants to know what happens. This day.
Yes, she met a new friend that smiles back in a creepy way.
She had a small problem as a child. Not even a giggle. Not even a little laugh.
See, I already
It's because she's small.
I got the small
because it's a micro. Because it's a micro. I apologize.
We're going to be doing this a lot, aren't we?
We are.
It was a tiny joke.
It was small-minded of me.
Man, you know what? We should totally move on to Toby and or Cronos.
Seems legit.
I have the background of dubious origin, and I have the negative version of it.
Okay.
Ooh.
And here I was
Ooh.
talking. I was muted.
No, you've been muted? Wow.
Whoops.
Ah,
What was your
Drac
dubious
is a-
origin?
Drac is unsure of how he ended up with it, but after his second marriage went south, his ex-wife had him killed, and he came back from it.
I love
Instead
it.
of being a lateral, he became a just standard plantigrade.
Right. So we have a character. So the active ability, the one for the negative of dubious origin, is you can actually respawn from a clone body when you die, even if the death was self-inflicted. The idea behind dubious origin is that you are here because somebody else wants you to be here. So it's almost like a Truman Show sort of thing. Or no, sorry, that's a different one. But
The Truman Show's a different one.
yeah, the Truman Show one was the one we had last time that we did that one. This one is that somebody has created you in one way or another, and you're not entirely sure why. We actually had some positives out of this one in the previous game. That was Cindy and Mindy were positives out of dubious origin. The negative one makes you respawn whether you want to or not, and your morphism isn't exactly set, so it will change as you respawn. So it has happened to him once. The ex-wife has had him killed, and he's come back in a different body, which may or may not have escaped the wrath of the ex-wife. We'll see. Perhaps she will kill you.
She
all
got
over
like
again.
6 different kinds of arrested for it. So.
All of the above. All right, and then Toby.
Toberius was raised in a grotto.
Okay.
Ooh.
He is a mid-level member of the university who was asked to surface due to algorithms that the university is working on are predicting a very dangerous event that could affect the university as a whole and possibly the planet that the university is located on.
Okay.
So they're asking him to look for information so they might figure out what's going on and change the algorithms if they're faulty, or remove the variable that could cause the problem.
So we have a secret society kind of thing that has a sort of mathematical prophecy thing going on. Did you have
Was that
positive or
positive or
negative for
negative?
this?
Positive.
Okay.
I am still an active member. It's just I'm a little more capable on the surface, as it were.
So the
You're a
positives for
field
grottos are
agent.
interesting. Yeah, there's things involving hidden messages for the positives in this one. You get secure networks to move stuff, which is really nice for situations where you have high security areas. Is one of the issues with the ubiquitous technology setting is it's really difficult to know whether or not any of your communication is secure. So using that passive helps with that. And then there's a safe house option. That's also kind of fun, depending on how friendly your grotto is. Sometimes they might not want people to come and chill with you. All right, so what was the problem that you ran into?
Their equation is showing that there's going to be a severe issue coming up. They don't know what it is. It's an unresolvable piece of the equation, and that's telling them that something is not right in the world, and they're asking him to investigate if he can.
Right, but I meant what was the? You said you ran into a background problem.
Because the way I'm envisioning the character, he was almost entirely raised within the grotto, so him actually having corporate ties really wouldn't fit too well.
Right. So what you would do for that? Actually, we're going to hit the scholarly section here in just a second. Is you would basically pick whichever one the grotto has the closest kind of philosophical tie to. So if it's going to be math based, it's probably Mars Cone ASR, and you'd grab whichever ones feel the most appropriate for that.
Yeah, I just picked two that would seem to fit. So I was just curious because I was looking at stuff and it looked like on the character sheet I'm using has a custom tag, so I was just wondering if there's something I didn't spot in there.
No, it's just an old carryover from way back when I first made that thing. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Well, we'll hit this in just a second and actually see what it is. Okay, so that's all of the backgrounds. Next part is education. I think that's page 30.
Oh, it's like you don't want me to scroll the whole way. Fine.
You are correct. It is.
Fine, I won't scroll the whole way.
You don't let Sam have any of the fun.
I'm continuing to watch this scroll because it's on lag. It's just like Sam's like, I won't watch the scroll the whole way. I'm watching this thing scrolls on for another 3 seconds. It's because of the lag. Okay, so education. This was where you picked proficiencies before. It is still where you pick proficiencies, but it is not where you are locked to proficiencies any longer. Because once we get to the experience purchase section, you'll have the ability to buy all sorts of other ones and customize your loadout a bit more. And this one actually, it doesn't grab the proficiencies. This one gives you boons, which was that thing I mentioned earlier at the start of this process for where you put D12s in for specific skills. So depending on what corps you trained under, you will be inherently better at doing certain things, but your training is going to be up to you. You're going to be buying all of your proficiency points through the experience purchase system. So if you look down there at the corporate boon list, you'll see ASR, Pulse, Spyglass, etc. all the way down at the bottom. You will not see Lumen on there. Those of you who have peeked into some of the leaked information from the lore book that's coming out soon, including some of the stuff that I put up on the Tumblr. This is, by the way, it's Pierce, the guy, if I didn't mention it earlier, the guy who wrote the game.
I don't think we end up by doing all, but I think they'll figure it out.
You think they'll guess that, perhaps, maybe? One can only hope. The Lumen is a kind of new arrival. It's actually, the corp itself is only about a year old. It's very new. They don't have they have megacorp status because of their wealth and influence. They don't have their own towns, nor do they have their own education system. So they're not included in this list. But you'll hear about them in the lore book and see some of the fun stuff that they do, because they are here to stir shit up. That is their deal, and they do it in a dramatic way. So. As to picking this stuff out, you'll see up here on boons and faults, select 2 corps. Each will give you 1 boon from the available proficiency list, and if you select the same corp twice, you gain the second boon provided. So this is just like before. You had a corp that you started in and a corp that you kind of moved to. Helps determine your history and stuff. Only it is a little less locking to what you know. So even though you see specific ones here, this is not the only way to gain boons and faults. It is just a way to start with them. So who did everybody pick?
I went Marsco, in fact.
Oh my.
Yes. To remove the 2 faults I got from my species. So I just started with a boon.
Yep. Marsco is a little different from the other ones. So just like before, Marsco doesn't over-specialize. They just have really broad education. And the benefit in this case is, rather than giving you boons, Marsco removes existing faults. So the previous faults that Ellie had received from purchasing the family and the morphism can't be negated by having Marsco. So who else did people go for?
I will bring up, I guess, the second half of the paragraph you had read, as I wish to take IRPF twice.
Okay.
Now, if you may recall, I had already taken security as a boon for my species.
Mm-hmm.
So because of this, the information mentions if ever a boon should overlap a fault or vice versa, they cancel each other out. But if ever 2 boons or 2 faults land on the same proficiency, just place the second one on a different proficiency of your choice.
Mm-hmm. So basically, you have been overeducated in one section. God knows how you managed to get fired.
So you get a free choice.
Yeah. So obviously, as IRPF, I already had security. I get search, and I will take athletics as the substitute.
Okay.
Nice. Well, as you know, Penny's family is Marsco, so I have to start with Marsco. But Penny isn't really gonna fit in with most people, and there's some places that just would love to sit down and have Penny sit next to, like, you know, different devices all day long. So she went to TTI. And she feels really at home with TTI.
I'm sure they're happy to have one of their own back.
Yeah. So I'm using my Mars coat to get rid of my athletics as a negative.
Mhm.
So I'm not bad at that. Ha ha! Take
Nice.
that, life. And I
That
am
was
going to.
short-lived.
And because I've already given up on operate, I'm going to take science as a boon.
Fair enough. So this is why Penny had to learn to be so good at like recording information, because she doesn't know how to use any of the machines that do it. So you mean to tell me this tape measure can tell me how long this is? No, I'm actually going to measure it in terms of hands.
This is why I took logic. I take logic later with this character. I'm going to put points in it because it'll be fine.
Logically, it shouldn't be longer than this much, so obviously it must be.
Does this taste of lemon?
Yes. All right, who's up?
I took Spyglass and ASR
Okay.
simply because one, the mathematics stuff, and two, because it is he's part of a secret organization.
Cool.
Staying hidden and manipulating people to get what he needs is probably the best option.
All right. So from the character history, we recall that this particular character didn't actually get a corp education. That is not a game changer. One of the nice parts about this particular system, at least I think, that I enjoy about it, is that you don't need to worry too much about, quote, breaking or gaming it. You have so much flexibility when this whole process is done to spend experience to buy and change other things, that the stuff that you get here is almost like writing your character background. Even if you were picking purely because you wanted a skill, or if you were worried that, I really want athletics, but I don't want to pick pulse, don't worry about it. You will have the opportunity to buy into that with experience points. It won't hold you back, not even to the first session that you play. So you can really build using the corps that you want to be a part of without worrying about being curtailed by them once you start up. So then where was Cronos from?
I started out with RPF and then went on to Progenitors later on.
Okay.
And from RPF, I gained knowledge in searching, and from Progenitors, I gained medicine.
Cool.
Can you write me a prescription?
I do not have a doctor's pad.
I have a doctorate.
I'm sorry, I said that wrong.
Can I borrow your
I am not
pad?
having a doctor's pad to give you, yes?
You could write it out. It would not be accepted.
So this is a good opportunity to bring up something that we haven't really seen too much in this system that was a presence before, that was allegiance to corpse. And because that was kind of dictating overall growth of a campaign in a way that I didn't really see a whole lot of kind of yes or no on, allegiance sort of moved to a different area. So it's now wrapped into this concept called arc points, which measures the overall growth of your whole campaign, based on how many plot points you've gotten to, how many places you've visited, how much characters have grown. And that doesn't factor into statistics or anything else of like, this is going to give me extra damage or something like that. It's really just a way of understanding how much influence you've had with the people around you. And as you hit certain landmarks and arc points, you will start gaining things like allegiance, and corps will begin to notice you and stuff like that. It's a way to help the guide understand how much the players have really affected the universe. So that's kind of where that moved to.
You do also gain knowledge of the corporation you have selected.
Yeah, that's still there. That was something in previous one as well. So you can use your corporate association to understand how certain corp things work. So scrolling down from that section, the next one is motivation. I kind of explained that to you guys before. Motivation is a way of kind of staying on the same page with your guide about how your character should be behaving. If you're playing toward your motivation, the guide knows that you're embodying your character. It doesn't actually involve your rules in any particular way. It does introduce this idea of favor. Favor is a kind of gift experience that the guide can give you when they think you're doing a good job. And playing to your motivation is a good way to earn it. Being a overall entertaining player is also a good way to earn it. There's a little blurb in here about making sure that entertaining does not mean disruptive. I think most people that have played in multiple groups and stuff probably know that there is a difference. So keep that in mind before fishing too hard for favors. But I have always enjoyed the something really neat has happened, so here's a bonus point for it kind of dichotomy that comes out of that.
You did something cool. Have a Benny.
Yeah.
Ooh,
You get a little
I
treat
found it.
for it.
Where's Waldo?
What happened?
Background. It's got a K in it normally. So
No,
I'll have to message you later so you know that you got to change to fix that word.
I think you're incorrect.
No, this is the future background. We don't use Ks anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right. So if you hop back up really quick to the character generation thing, so we can look at that list.
I cheated.
I'm waiting for it to update. Wait for it.
See, what I did is I
it.
actually made a copy of the PDF so I could open it multiple times and set one of them to be always on that page.
There we go. All right. That was a good 15-second delay there.
Yeah,
Good stuff.
it's Twitch. It takes a little bit.
It is that switch to Twitch.
Okay.
That bit. Okay. So if we look down the overall thing here, we've done family and species. We've done morphism. We've done history. The only thing that we have left here is experience and equipment and the soft scores down at the bottom. The stuff that we just went through, even with people or with me over-explaining everything that we've done, has taken about an hour. If you're just going through it yourself, you're looking at like 5 minutes to get those things figured out. The stuff that takes any degree of time is this next part here. And I won't lie to you, this does take a little longer than it does in edition 1, but it's because you're making more significant choices, I think, at character creation than you used to. So we'll hop into this really quick and get experience purchases. So this is the part where you do all that stuff that I mentioned before about buying those new proficiencies, buying all kinds of skill upgrades, getting all kinds of fun abilities is all done at this point. If you look at the experience progression sheet, if you can go ahead and pull that one up.
I did. It's just going to take about 15 seconds. Maybe 40.
Wait,
not sure yet.
The thing, not Hopper. Great. Okay, awesome. This is the experience progression sheet. Normally, when you start a brand new character, you get 500 experience to spend on this sheet. So each of the purchases that you see here have their experience points listed at the top, showing how many they cost. And if you want to start from absolutely nothing and build all the way up from the bottom, this will probably take you a little while. You really don't need to do that. In fact, I recommend against it. If you instead start with a base template and then work from there, you can save yourself a lot of work. So Sam is currently circling all this stuff here. That first row there is just your first set of dice when you're rolling things. So if I were to make a check and I had those first dice circled like that, any check that I made in the mind section, a mind exert check, a mind endure check, anything like that would use 1d10. You can see she's circled all the way over to the second d10. Now, any check that I make in the mind endure section or the mind exert section will use 2d10s, and so on. You'll see there's a total of 5d10s on the chart. Chances are your starting character is going to want to have 2 dice in most things. If you fill the experience chart all the way out to the second d10 and buy all the things in between, you use, what is the total? Somebody's got it written ahead of it. Actually, I think it's right over here. 2d10 and everything.
450 experience
450.
for 2d10.
Yeah.
And everything.
So if you go all the way out to that second d10 right there, you have spent 450 of your 500 starting experience. So instead of having to figure out where to put 450 experience, you can go out to that basic level of beginning with 2d10 and have only 50 to think about, which is really a much simpler thing to chug. And the nice part about that is if you then wanted to have something all the way out to 3d10, you can pull 2 away from something else. So you can knock something out of the 2d10 area plus another one there, and you'll have just enough points to reach all the way up to the 3 and one other thing, which gives you one thing that your character is really good at, one thing that your character isn't very good at, and even scores all through the other. It's really quick and easy to do. Now, you are totally welcome to min-max it and flop it the way that you want to, but in terms of building quickly and efficiently, that gives you a good character that is strong in one area and weak in another area. And does it very fast. Now, what we're doing is we're playing at a much higher level than the starting level. We're actually starting with, I think it was like 1300.
Yeah, 1300 XP.
Yeah, 1300 XP, which is indicative of characters that have been around for quite a while. So this isn't even like have completed one campaign, it's completed many campaigns. And we're doing this because we have actually completed many campaigns, and also because we need to test things at the higher level. So building all the way up from that section does take a while longer, but you can approach it in the same method. If you fill everything out to 3d10, does somebody have the number for what that ends up at?
I had it at one point, but it's gone now.
Because I think a lot of us started that
I
way.
think that's roughly 800-ish.
Okay, so 800-ish. So that gives you a little less to deal with, getting all the way out to here. And it's for the same kind of concept as before. Chances are, at this stage in the game, your character should be better than normal at everything. And they're going to be really good at some things. And better than normal is certainly over here at the 3s. Normal is kind of in the 2 range.
And now, if you want to be exceptional and specialized, you can then take a single d10 out of one of those columns and then bump one thing all the way up to 5d10.
Yeah, because it actually cranks quite a bit out of there with all the spare points that you had left over. Yeah.
1,080.
There you go.
All right. So it was 1,080 to get all the way to the 3s?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I actually think I can jot that down so that people have it. I'll put that into the thing. So that's a basic default here.
Oh my god, I did it! Oh wait, yeah, I did it. Woo!
You did it. What you did is a little faster than the way most people are going to handle it, I think, because it also, like any game, knowing what all these keywords are makes this process quicker for you. What kind of attracted me to this model and why I eventually went to it is A, the stuff that I mentioned earlier. It gives you progressive growth where everybody's moving at the same rate, but they all get to make separate choices. But B, it also means that the people who want to spend a long time on a character sheet, because there are a lot of people who do, that's sort of their fun thing. It's like building building an army list or something like that. If you want to sit there for an hour and go through like, okay, I want to push this as far as I can, I'm going to read through every proficiency and make sure that this works. You can do that. But if you also want to get it done in 5 minutes, it's really easy to do that and get a character that is based on dice and not over specialized in any one way. And on that note, even though they have the same stats, they're not the same character anytime, which is the fun part about these different choices that are available to you. You can have 2 characters here that have 3d10s down everything and 1 at 4010 and or 2 at 4010, and both of these characters can have the same dice trackers, same dice values on their stats, but they made totally different choices on the columns on the interior. So they picked proficiencies, they picked certifications or movement points over readiness points. They made all sorts of different choices on the inside. So you end up with 2 totally different characters that operate differently in the game. So what you will see in this game is a lot of people rolling the same number of dice to do stuff when they're at the same level. That will pop up fairly common, but you will also see very different results coming out of it. Because some characters will have boons in areas, you'll have very different skill ratings in areas, and characters will have different powers that are assisting them in areas. This system does not have the runaway D6 or runaway dice system problem that 1.0 had. I don't think there is really a way to roll more than 5d10 dice.
No.
Not that I'm aware of. I think there's maybe one dynamic that adds an extra dice to something, and it's very situational. So you won't be checking huge numbers of dice using this particular system.
It's also
I
worth
liked
noting.
my Shadowrun character with 20 dice to shoot someone.
It's also worth noting that you no longer need to get surgeries or implants to get to the 5 dice number.
Yeah, that's another thing. So you are no longer locked to as she said, they're no longer locked to surgical implants and stuff like that in order to get up to the 5 dice setting. That's something that can be done entirely through character growth. And that was one of many exceptions that was made for the sake of letting realism kind of fall to the side of character build ideas. So a lot of things kind of changed over that. The way money was used to purchase weapons changed a bit as well. In 1.0, the currency to gun purchase ratio made guns really cheap, which kind of boggled a lot of people because here's this powerful thing that I'm getting cheap, but really guns aren't all that expensive unless you're going to mount them on an aircraft carrier. You can go down and buy an assault rifle in Texas for what, $100, something like that. They're not that pricey, but we are used to equating power to cash in terms of RPGs, and that just sort of worked out a little better. So the guns are now a more consistent sort of price related thing. than they were before. In a way, there's crafting involved as well. So we'll see that when we get to equipment. But yeah, so this looks like Sam's sheet. Let's check out Sam's sheet. Is this done, Sam? Is this 1300?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's see what she got. She's got D10s all the way out to 3. So she's going to do 3 D10s and everything except for, looks like one of them goes up to 4. Mind Exert goes up to 4.
I smart.
So she'll have 4 D10s and things that have to do with using her head to think through things. Very handy. Everything else will be on a 3. So very strong above average character with one very strong trait. Like I said before, it is possible to push all the way out to 10 at this point value, or push all the way out to the end at this point value and get those 5 D10s, but you would have to sacrifice a little bit to get there.
Such as my sheet.
Yep.
Yes.
Let's see, we got readiness ups. We got certifications, 1, 2. What did you get? Right down the bottom. Did you get 8 certs?
I have 8 certs.
8 certs, okay. I'm just checking to see where you got them. Well, cool. 5 boons. So as I mentioned before, you get boons and stuff from this that you don't get from the regular character creation. So if Sam wasn't happy with the faults that she got during character generation, she could use the boons that she picked up here to undo those faults, or she can put them in other places she wants to. Also included in here are things like boosts to your basic HP and to your armor HP. So armor can become more durable. If you want to build yourself into somebody who uses very strong armor as opposed to a very strong base HP, this is where you do it. Sam's character is using transcendent implants. That is a system that has changed dramatically from before. They're more approachable now than they were. They're safer to use than they were. But if you rather than going entirely into the system, I say safer in that they're more reliable. They are still have the potential of being quite dangerous, depending on how they're used. But she has built herself in such a way that she will be effective with them. So you can see that in things with the readiness boosts. Readiness is something that's used to fuel experience or fuel initiative. It also fuels transcendent implants. And she's put some base HP ups there, which is important for implants as well, because they have the tendency to hurt you when you use them. So implants will drain from you when they're transcendent. Honestly, in light of the fact that she is a micro character and they already have a low hit point total, the fact that she only has 3 and still has 2 in armor is kind of surprising.
I can't not have the 2.
Oh yeah. So you got all the ones that are good.
Because you do realize there's 2 that forces you to take armor hit point, and I can't choose.
Oh boo.
How boo.
Notoriety is 2. Notoriety is a new thing. I should talk about notoriety a little bit. So damage, that thing that we all quest for in terms of being the biggest badass, damage is actually a factor of community. So those of you who are looking at their easy dump stat can now snap your fingers and talk about how horrible it is. Notoriety is where damage comes from. It is the ability for your character to do things that they are noted for by other people, typically how they perform acts of action. And they do that by advancing their tools, their equipment, and their weaponry. And advancement is just like, it's like crafting. It's like, I've made this gun better. I've made it more mine. It's gotten a name now. It's got special colors on it. Whatever you want to do to turn it into Han Solo's blaster as opposed to just a standard blaster you pick up a store. It's the thing that makes you noteworthy. You can actually use advancement on things beyond weaponry. You can use it on weapons. You can use it on certain items. You can actually use it on certain surgeries. Various techniques in the game can be advanced. And that is all a factor of your character using them in recognizable ways. So as they become noteworthy for doing these certain things, that reputation equates to extra damage or extra uses if it is the case of an item. So actually, if you purchase advancements on like a perk, the health kit, you can actually use that perk multiple times before it dissipates. And that is a good notoriety situation for somebody who's a noteworthy healer. They're able to get the most that they can out of this one med kit. They can use it multiple times. And that is how that kind of advances. So the number of advancement points you can have at any given point is equated by your notoriety score. And that basically equates to your character is learning how to use advanced equipment and there's a limit to how advanced the equipment there is that they can use at any given point. And the way that limit is depicted is through notoriety points. So that is where you get your extra damage from in most cases. Certifications can also tweak damage in certain ways, but it is primarily through advancement points. So Sam has 2 advancements, 2 notoriety points, means she can advance something twice. Did you end up advancing anything, or is that just there?
That's just there.
Okay.
I need stuff. Well, the thing is I can't advance it until I get, because you have to spend XP in it, right?
Well, for the implant you do. For the implant you do.
Yes.
For things that are like items, you just spend cash on it.
Yeah, well, we haven't gotten to the cash part yet, so of course I haven't advanced it.
Okay. Oh, no, of course not. You didn't work on this ahead of time.
I haven't worked on anything at a time. I haven't been sitting on this all day. I just threw this up out of like sheer muscle memory of dreaming to make a character.
I know it.
This is not like those phony morning shows where somebody teaches you a recipe and then pulls out the pre-made thing.
So I have a character here that's been sitting in the oven for 40 minutes at 450, and I'd like to put it on the table and see how
it goes. Yeah, that'll be fine. That'll be fine.
Oh God, it's dead.
Oh no.
And on fire.
I'm used to that.
Oh. Okay.
Well,
So,
now that we've made everyone depressed.
Yeah, now we've made everybody sad. Thanks, y'all. Did anybody have any additional questions for this section, or did you guys have this filled out?
Good.
I'm good.
Well, I just want to state that if people actually want to make random characters through, say, your favorite rolling program, you can actually do that quite well.
Oh, what did you do? Yeah.
That's what I did because I knew rolling this up would take a little bit longer than normal. So it's just a D9, and wherever it falls, that's what you place. It takes a little bit of time to actually calculate out the math, but you can actually get a very interesting character out of it.
I know there's a more efficient way to do that. There might be.
I'm not sure you need to streamline the randomized character concept.
Oh, that was a lot of nonsense.
I'm just saying that sounds like the path to madness.
The path to madness. It could be.
Yeah.
It is worth noting that the whole idea behind this system was to make it conscientious and not random. So randomizing it might be counterproductive, but I did want to. There's very little rolling in the beginning of the character generation for this. You do roll for random hit points, but other than that, a lot of this is supposed to be a conscious decision. So I'll be interested in seeing what your sheet looks like.
Well, actually, I can send this over to Sam and
drop it over to me really quick so that we can. Yeah, well, everybody's going to send their character sheets to me when we're done anyway.
I'll send you the progression chart real quick. So just the
peanut gallery should have.
In fact, I'm just sitting here double checking my math and seeing if there was any way I could do this slightly better. Can I pull more certs out? I don't want to lose any more movement. It really sucks having to try to chase people who have like crazy movement across the battlefield.
The peanut gallery is going to bring up the very first one that was done was a random one on this end.
Yeah. Totally.
Okay. That is for you, Sev. That is the linear progression chart. I did the Sam thing, only mine's worse because I'm using MS Paint.
Oh, delicious.
Why would you do that?
Because I don't have an art program anymore.
I'm trying very carefully to do this. It's expert circles I've done here. I totally can make sense of
yes, you can roll up a completely random character, and it will come up somewhat neat, though you do have to make conscious choices at times, because going full random will not generate you a decent character. You actually do have to par back a little bit on certain things.
I don't know if it's worth it at that point.
Well, for example, I actually had to literally say, no, I'm actually going to put a couple points into, or some experience into body exert. Because I think I had a total of 3 to 4 rolls in there. And to quote the famous Austrian, you are puny man.
That would not work out too well. In terms of spanning your stuff out, so a lot of these have or sections on them, like taking armor HP or proficiencies, taking movements or certifications, stuff like that. That will give you very different behaviors in combat. Other factors referring to movement are your morphism will help determine your movement as well. Larger characters do move faster than the smaller ones do. There are certifications that help counteract that, like wind sprint will give you a little extra speed. And a lot of these things will be affected by weapons and armor as well. So things get slowed down a little bit if you're wearing heavy equipment and things like that. I see some questions in the chat about there being a movement cap. There is a movement cap. It is a cap to your overall movement score is 10. But you can actually push over that if you want to. There are more than 10 movement options in here. If you push over it, you actually count against things that are normally reductive of movement, like heavy armor, which would slow you down. If you had like an 11 in your movement score, you could count against the negative of wearing this heavy equipment. And
there's the nasty Weber.
Yeah, the Weber's a thing too. A little web gun that slows people down. So having a beyond the cap movement score is not useless. It's certainly specialized. Like that is the thing that you're working on really hard. But it is there are reasons to do it. If you wanted to wear the heaviest armor and still have the fastest move, you can do that. One of the things that you sacrifice for movement in most of these situations is readiness, which is a very powerful combat ability as well. So in edition 1, readiness was kind of associated with just initiative. Initiative works differently in this, as does readiness. So not only does readiness work toward your initiative in combat here, it also gives the ability to reroll dice in combat and to add +1s to hit in combat, which are great ways to determine whether or not your character is trying really hard on an attack. So they're very valuable. Readiness also has to do with using transcendent implants. So if you're planning on being an implant user, that is a thing as well. Other equipment has to do with that too. Okay, so everybody had filled out their experience.
Yep.
Cool. The last thing on this particular section is equipment. So at our level, really high up in the cash game, we are beginning with
6,000.
1,300 experience and 6,000 credits. Things did get more expensive, by the way, in 2.0. Money throws a little freer in this version than it did before, because you're not earning it on a play-by-play basis like you used to. You're earning it based on deeds, so you get more for doing stuff, basically. Normally, you begin the game with 500 experience and 500 credits to purchase equipment with, which is usually enough to get you one basic weapon, some passable armor, and a toy or two to go with. And you can always talk to your guide about whether or not you're going to be equipped in game. That's a thing that happens as well. Because we're playing with seasoned characters, we get a metric truckload of credits to play around with.
Money!
So 6K. So there is a big fat.
I appreciate that it's metric.
It is, as opposed to the correct and mighty imperial system that one particular country uses to the extent of others. So in this particular edition, there is a much bigger weapons and equipment section than there was in the previous one. And that's because if you were participating in the earlier Kickstarters, you may have recalled that there was going to be an equipment book, but in light of the need for a second edition, I felt that it would be a little unfair to publish an equipment book for 1.0 only to then follow it up with a system that didn't use said equipment book. So all of the equipment that was planned on going into that book has been factored into the core rules for 2.0, so that you won't need to buy another book that you weren't going to get anyway. So you'll get all these fancy tools that go with it. There's well over 100 guns. Or not guns, but weapons in general. I don't think there's quite 100 guns, but weapons choices are ranked in that high, and tons and tons of items that weren't there before. So it is a more robust equipment area than we had before. Lots of fun stuff in here. So what did people pick for their gunnage? Curiosity.
Well, this is the point where I really didn't finish up to.
Yeah.
So we're now in the realism territory here. I think
I'm
Sam
good.
may have.
I'm good.
You go ahead, Sam.
Well, I spent like almost all my money on my twin-scented implants. Then I took a bunch of my money and I bought the brand new O&R with all the bells and whistles.
They're not that
Then
expensive.
it's like 1,000 credits for some of those upgrades.
You start with 6K.
I know, but the implant was a lot of money. Because
You
it
got the
was
twin-scented
1,000 for the EM suite. It was six. It was two. It was like it was 180 for the suit. Or no, wait, yeah, it was 180 for the suit. 200 for the upgrade. 200 for the blackout curtains. 1,000 for the EM suite. But then I went ahead and went, I need a weapon. And then I was like, no, I need 2 weapons. So, but then she broke my heart. And so I didn't get to do the one thing. Okay, so I have a handgun, which is boring. But through my handy dandy little like valued customer card with a certain corp, I managed to swipe my information in, and for an extra 250 credits, I got a micro-friendly adjustment done to my handgun, so now it is a teeny gun. And then I got
right, we didn't think about that. Really quick, just
We should get that little hint of Lumen then. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll let you know a little bit. One of the neat things that Lumen does, the Lumen has the ability to miniaturize things. They produce them at a smaller scale, so it is actually possible to get any weapon for micro now if you're willing to pay for it. It is expensive. Mark my words. It is pricey. It's like 250 extra credits to miniaturize a weapon, but you can do it, and it can go down to the size of a micro to handle it normally and still have all of its normal damage potential.
Yes. Ant-Man physics.
Yes, Ant-Man physics, basically, for what it does for it. But while that is expensive to get the same gun as everything else, it is totally a lore-friendly and accurate representation of what is happening. So if you ever wanted to make that little bitty assassin, you now have the gun that is G.I. Joe sized that will blow a hole in somebody's head.
And then what comes from this is because I was so excited that you put this in, and then I went, but Z, I need a bow. So that way I can be Ant-Man Hawkeye.
Oh boy.
And so I had to get the tech assembly bow. I kind of wanted to get the other bow just because the tactical folding composite bow has overdraw, which is really cool. But yeah, I went with the tech assembly bow, which the tech assembly bow is super cool because there's the stuff like called material you put into it, which I need to buy material.
Yeah,
And
so
then,
get rid of your handgun or take the microwism off of it and go buy yourself some ammo.
no, I need the handgun. I have purposes. At some point in the campaign, someone's going to need to go off in a different direction, and I would be like, here, take my gun, and I'm going to throw it to him, and it's going to get lost under the couch. And
Also, it's worth noting that having multiple sets of equipment is handy because you're not going to be allowed to go everywhere wearing a heavy suit of armor and carrying a great big rifle.
That is the thing.
Or a tech assembly bow, since it doesn't fold up like the tactical folding composite bow. So I'm going to have a little handgun, and then I'm going to have my tech assembly bow. So those are my weapons, and then I bought a bunch of other unnecessary and floofy items that I think are important. I recommend anybody who ever plays the system buy a bug out ball. Your guide is trying to kill you.
Sam had a bad experience with stuff a long time ago.
Yeah. Only because I chucked said ball.
She got used as a volleyball multiple times in a single session.
Sam had several bad experiences just a long time ago.
I'm having trouble choosing between a sniper rifle and a bow because I'm built for precision shots, and both do so. But both are very, very enticing. The new bows are quite nice, but sniper rifles are cool. My big spend, however, I didn't buy any armor because I'm not going to be able to use it. I have gotten new blood, and then after that, Intelliformic flesh, which are quite expensive surgeries and have consumed a vast amount of my money. I've also picked up a couple of perk kits because I'm going to be the medic. And, oh yes, extra armed as well. General augmentation surgery.
So
I can lend you my bow.
And my...
I'll be able to afford the bow. I just got to decide if I want bow or sniper rifle.
Mr. Moose, if you actually have an axe,
That is fairly amazing, though.
Are you asking me that question?
well, I'm just curious. Are you a lumberjack? And are you okay?
There is a battle axe in the
No, I'm a Mountie. Jeez.
You
This
were.
kind of stereotyping against Canadians is offensive. And
So
I
you
will
can have
not
your fishing
put
guide
up
on it.
with it. I don't know what you were talking about.
Okay. Because we were playing evolved characters, Ali's character has the Intelliformic Flesh, and I believe she's creeped it up a smidge in light of the unfortunate career accident that occurred
Yes, Intelliformic meltdown during
on
recording. Not
stage
good
while
for you.
associating with wee children. Yeah.
I just like to
That's-
think that you're like sitting there like doing the what was the guys that are like the Australian show with the brightly
Guys
colored
like
hair?
the Australian show.
No, the guys in the Australian
Wiggles?
show, the Wiggles. It's basically you're
Why
playing
did I
the
know that?
How did you
Yeah.
get that?
They're the only Australians.
This will show
Only
people that we
ones.
spend way
Hot
too much
potato,
time
hot
around each
potato.
other.
I like to think that you're probably doing like the Venus style of some sort of like version of the Wiggles, and then suddenly you creeped.
I was going more for Bill Nye, but short the Wiggles. That's-
Yeah. No, I buy it.
Oh, I thought you were like saying you were like totally mortifying very small children. Okay, that's why I was going for that. I was like, we're gonna step this up from Teletubbies. So
My only true sadness here is that we have our actual Canadian stereotype character, but he's not playing red green.
Well, I'm a man.
No, you're Moose.
I was really hoping for if the foxes don't find me handsome.
I already made my handyman fix-it beaver. I do not need to make sure that they find me handy
That they
all
find me
right.
handy.
So Zev, I have a question
because I'm
about
handsome.
doing gear, and it's very very important. Is it 100 material? Or is it, material's 1 credit each right now, right?
The actual ammo pucks for that one are different.
No. I
They're
want to
more
do
expensive.
notoriety.
Oh,
I want to advance my weapon,
okay.
and I was just wondering because I think it takes
That,
100.
that should be at the beginning of the weapon section. Should have advancement for it.
Okay, I'm trying to find it. Fine.
Okay, Seth,
Mhm.
here's a question that goes with equipment, but I didn't see it in certifications. Is there a heavy armor adept ability?
I don't think there's anything named heavy armor adept.
The equivalent for that is the one in the tier 3 of the armor stuff. You will have to be proficient in medium or light to get there, essentially.
That I already figured. It's just I was curious if there was actually one because I have an idea of what I want to do.
And I just want to clarify one thing because this is my first time using notoriety. So if I put 2 ranks of advancement on my bow,
Mhm.
if I were to roll a 1 on the damage table, which would normally be a 0, would I do 2 damage or 4 damage?
4 damage.
No, neither.
Neither?
So the thing that it says in advancement is if any of the damage arrays have a 0 on them,
zeros.
the weapon is incapable of doing damage at that level.
Okay, but let's assume it was some number up from that on the
So,
low end.
2.
Would it be?
Yeah,
Would be 2 or 4?
it would be 4 in that case
Yeah,
because
okay.
we'd have 2 levels
Okay.
that did +2.
Okay, that is also good for me to know because I didn't notice the zeros thing. So
Yeah.
damn,
So
I thought I
the
was
way
gonna
advancement
overcome
works,
the fact
yeah.
that my bow was gonna suck every once in a while.
No, that bow can just miss. It can happen on that, right?
Just
Just not hit.
No, it's just
Uh,
it just like stumps into the armor and falls off.
Yeah. No, it is not quite a high-powered rifle. It's got little
Okay.
quirks. Yeah, so advancement adds to damage arrays. Damage arrays is a new thing. Damage, as opposed to being a static thing before, is now random, but it is an intelligent random as opposed to a complete RNG thing. So basically, when you roll a dice, your weapon has an array that's associated with it. Let's just go find one. Type in rifles or something. I'll find rifles.
Excuse me.
Alright, I'll go find a rifle. I was looking at stuff. Here's a handgun.
All right, that'll work. Update, do it, update.
Oh man, now I gotta find something
there we
I
go.
don't want to
Okay.
buy.
There we go. Okay, so when you're rolling damage, and you guys will see combat in action when we get to it in an actual session and stuff, but just for the straight damage, you'll be rolling a dice depending on how well you hit the enemy, either a d8, a d10, or a d12. And you will be comparing your die roll to the damage array of your gun. So you see for this generic handgun there, if I rolled an 8 on the dice, I would do 15 damage. So that's how we handle damage in a more reflective of the weapon fashion as opposed to just rolling dice fashion. So different weapons behave in different ways. Rifles have a very consistent damage table all the way down with high spikes at the end of it. The handguns have high spikes toward the mid-range and then lower damage toward the front, indicating that you've got if you're got a good aim on it, something you can do a nice set of damage there. You've got different spreads for all kinds of things that are going in, so that you get different characteristics out of the weapons. The weapons also have different firing modes that are unique to the weapon type. So rifles can shoot things in a line that hits everything in the line. Shotguns spread out over several hexes and can hit things that are next to each other. There's different weapon behaviors, and then there are unique weapons within each one of these different things that all have their own arrays too. And the other thing that's kind of fun about the damage arrays is that many weapons have special features that will also show up on the array. So you'll have things like you see the stun that's on the end here. If you roll a 12, it will stun the enemy so that they can't move for a little while. Other weapons have things like disrupt. Some of them have things like sticking enemies to walls, or causing them to fall over, or doing all kinds of other fun abilities to them, and those will land on different spots of the array. So you get a lot of different weapon character out of using these things. The only downside that I have really experienced with them so far is that they are a pain to look up in the beta document. But that is purely because it's the beta document, alpha document actually. When this book is actually published, these arrays will be in a specific section that has individual card-sized things that you can scan and print so that your weapon can be sitting there right for you to reference very easily. And you won't have to go fishing through pages to find it anymore. I actually think it's going to be super convenient when that happens, because aside from making a fun damage deck that you can have around, just by scanning and printing the page, you will have everything pertinent to your damage right there at a glance.
You could also then use that as a loot deck.
Yeah, that's kind of fun too, actually. That's how I want to do some fun stuff with enemy encounter generation too. Because obviously, while it is fun or doable to just kind of have generic mook that always has a rifle and a suit of armor, it would be more fun if they could all be differently equipped, but that's a pain for the guide to have to put together, unless they have this really handy dandy set of equipment sitting right in front of them, and they're just going to go, okay, you get this gun, and you get this gun, and you get this gun, and all of the appropriate information is sitting there for them to use. So I think that will make life easier for guides as well. Because really, you want your guides to be happy, or you don't have a game.
How do different ammo types factor into the damage array?
Ammo in general is different. That is a thing. Ammo tracking was a pain, as we discovered. So ammo tracking is kind of out of there. You now run out of ammo when you critically fail an attack roll, and then have to reload, which just takes a round to do. And as long as you're using standard generic ammo, you are assumed to have purchased enough to get you through whatever situation you're in. So buying ammo is no longer a factor for standard weaponry. Buying special ammo is a factor, which you can spend credits on, and those have different abilities that will change the way your weapon behaves. And that special ammo will last for either one combat encounter or until you critically fail and run out of ammo again. So it's a little random, but it's much less to keep track of. One of the things that is less present, in fact not present in the ammo types, is the ammos don't affect damage anymore. They will affect behavior. They'll do things like melt cover, or they will affect certain types of armor and stuff like that. But for their overall damage output has been put away, because what was happening, even after the major damage spiking was taken out of it and core extended, as you were going into situations where ammo purchasing was kind of like, why would you not? And I don't necessarily want that to be the case. I want ammo purchasing to be a flavor of a character that wants that to be their thing, more than that being every character should always have incendiary ammo. because that's just an odd store purchase to make for a character that is, say, non-combatant. Like, I'm only going to have a handgun, but statistically, I should never run without incendiary ammo. So I'm going to buy that. I don't really want that choice to be dictating people's behavior. So it is not in this case. Special ammo has their special abilities and stuff, but they will be better augmented by situations as opposed to always needing them.
I keep feeling like I need to get the Starfall suit because I don't trust you.
Almost like
Rest assured, Sammy, if I
play
need
the
to throw you
game.
on a spacesuit, it won't matter what you're wearing. You will end up in space.
Space.
Alright, well, I have finished my purchases.
What else did people get? We got Ellie's. We got Toby. What did you buy?
I'm still working on the buys. I'm actually looking over the new armor stuff
Okay.
because there's actually some really neat armor changes to armor stuff that you put in there.
There are fun things with armor now. Armor is now specifically protective and weak against damage types or ammo types on occasion. So if you are a melee combatant, you will want to get armor that is proofed against other melee characters to help you out, that sort of thing. And you're not always going to know ahead of time, so a lot of it's flavored. So sometimes your armor is going to be more protective than it is in other occasions.
I have a question about the storm armor.
Mm-hmm.
It has a chink for weapons firing precision shots, but it has a proof against pistols, SMGs, and rifles, which pistols and rifles usually do precision shots.
They can do it, and if they choose to do...
Then it would just be the extra damage. It wouldn't be notified by the type, would it?
No, here we go. Weapons firing precision shots, shotguns is what the chink is against. Proof is pistols, SMGs. So if the pistol, SMG, or rifle fires at you normally, you get the proof. If it is firing a precision shot, you would not.
Would
Because
you get
basically
the,
they're
would it
aiming
get
for
the
the big
chink
points.
then?
Yeah, it would get the chink.
Okay. I was just wondering if it was one cancels out the other, kind of like, you know.
Nah, it's more one switches to the other.
Yeah,
Okay,
it switches together. So they can avoid the proof of that armor. That is the thing, because having a proof against rifles is very handy, because a lot of people use rifles. So they have to aim carefully in that one to get your proof.
Oh, look, here's my ONR. That was a lot of money right there. You are so
Good
worth it.
old
Just use the
ONR.
pulse wave.
Purge wave.
Purge wave, yes.
Purge wave.
Now, since we're starting advanced characters, are we allowed to purchase special weapons or no?
Yeah. So normally that's protected purchases and stuff, but you guys are considered to have friends in high places and stuff at this point, so you can.
Well,
you can
that
buy
goes
anything.
into our arc, right?
Yeah. So it's the same deal, right? So if you've got a advanced campaign that's been going for a while, you're considered to have a lot of arc points, and those arc points buy you privilege to buy special weapons and stuff. So you're not gated out of anything at this stage. Calgren, there is no economy stat in this edition.
Then what would be the cost of a crafted weapon when you're purchasing it?
I think it's 200 over base. So the where's that written? At the front of weapons, I think.
Yeah, it says at
Yeah,
the
it's
front of
down in armor.
weapons.
Basic weapons. There we
What?
go. No, it's 100 over base.
What would you guess
100.
our arc points would be for this one?
The max. I mean, I haven't assigned it for this because we're starting automatically at a top one, but that section is still kind of being made as we go.
Okay. I'm gonna pretend we have 150. Now,
For the funsies.
the one thing I wanted to know about the arc, and I was gonna ask you about it. Every once in a while, it mentions rescue. Is that like an accumulation of those that we can have, or
No. So it's written in there. It's if you've used it, it will be restored.
Oh, okay. So if you hit that next point and you haven't used it, oh well.
Mm-hmm. So rescues are this idea that you can actually be really risky with your character at one point during an episode, which an episode is kind of like a collection of story ideas, with the knowledge that you have a rescue available to save you from trouble if you get into it. And that rescue is like, I'm falling off a cliff. I have I've failed all of my checks to save myself. I'm going to die on impact. I want to use a rescue because I really don't want my heroic character to end this way because the dice hate me, which we've all experienced before in the past. And that is something that is available in this game, and the hand of fate will intercede, and you will survive with 1 hit point, or you'll be rescued by something flying, or something will happen to protect you from this death. But at that point, you've used up your rescue, and you need to be more careful with what you're doing. The kind of fun part about rescues is that, and this is another thing that we'll probably get tested a few times over. Before we're certain of it, but you are actually allowed to arrange the situation in which you get rescued, but you're only allowed to do it once. So if you ever wanted to have that really heroic situation where like your character goes in and bombs the enemy or something and is pretty much sure to die in the meantime, you can use a rescue to get yourself out of a situation that you have created, but you're only allowed to do that one time. It doesn't restore after that, because otherwise it's just stealing the spotlight on a regular basis. But if you've got that really cool scene that you want to do, you can use a rescue to self-save. They're called risky situations, and there are a few of them in the game as actual arranged areas too, like in the case of transcendent implants, where if you back yourself into a corner, you can get out of it, but only once. Yeah, there's some stuff there for the arc points. That section is kind of being assembled as we go. So one thing that you will see in 2.0 as documents start coming out with it is that there will be arc points attached to things like the pre-generated adventures, the contracts and stuff. They will have
really cool
arc points attached to them, so that if people decide to do arranged play or something like that, you will have a way of mapping what you've earned. Like, we're going to go do an adventure that's worth 20 arcs. And that, again, doesn't translate into character experience necessarily, nor is it necessarily game time. It's just a way for you to keep track of how much influence this character has had on the planet.
Saving the world, yo.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Hatdan, did you pick a toy?
Unfortunately, I am having a bit more of a difficult time figuring that out. Also, partly because I disappeared briefly to go to the bathroom. But
Unforgiven.
Doomed.
I have to listen to 3 long Metallica songs back to back.
Yeah.
And watch a Clint Eastwood film.
Okay.
Okay, that works for me.
Didn't have anything else to do.
Well, you're making a Malay character, right?
I was unsure. I know I wanted to focus on close combat at the very least. I was unsure if I wanted to go melee unto itself or just possibly.
You go in with a sawed-off shotgun.
I was going to help Hatdan figuring out what he wants to do there. Tremor pole is always a good choice.
Yeah,
I think we have somebody using it already, though.
I have a tremor
Tremor
pole.
poles are always a good choice.
Technically, I am what basically amounts
my
to a
main
tremor pole.
recommendation
The second one
would actually be the baton. The baton is a really nice versatile weapon.
Was what I was thinking, is at the very least picking up a baton. If I have a pistol or something to cover slight range situation.
That's not a bad idea to have one of each. I know eventually I'm hoping to... I'm probably going to do the smart thing and get a... Oh, my brain won't tell me what the word is for the little pointy bit. The bayonet. Yeah, I want to put a bayonet on my bow.
Yeah.
You laugh, but I'm going to put a bayonet on my bow.
Still saying that you take the improvised weapon ability and you stab people with arrows.
It'll be fine.
I like it. It's legit.
It's legit. Alright, I'm just going to put a bayonet on the end of my bow. It's going to be fine.
So we have discovered,
Just an arrow.
and Goofy Rules is written, because we'll go ahead and talk about the peasant railguns of the system so far, for funny things that have popped up. On the whole, 2.0 has been working out pretty well. I change things every time we play. That is the nature of testing. But
He
they're
changes
moving
things
along
every
pretty
time we make
nicely.
something
You are
cool.
definitely more durable in this system than you were before, but that's been a lower level thing. So we're going to see how that sticks around in the upper one, or if there's. I'm a little worried that we're going to run into like horrific damage quick, but that is something we'll find out.
I'll be fine.
I'm scared.
No,
We'll
next
see how
you
that
will
goes.
be fine.
The last game that I ran, we had a fun moment where the characters had been fighting pretty non-consequential enemies and felt very powerful. And then we ran into something that was significantly beefier, and they started taking noticeable damage. And the fear set in, which is good. We want the fear to set in. Nobody died. It was a successful fight, but people hurt, and that is what we want to see happen. And then they fought something tremendously painful at the end of that fight that could have easily destroyed one of them. But they were able to collect through the course of their mission weapons of sufficient power to get rid of it before it did that. So it was a fun little thing there. And I want to see how we do going forward with this one, because we have some powerful characters. But in terms of silliness that can occur, the Lumen miniaturization is really designed to allow characters, micro characters, to make use of the full weapon area. It is also capable of accomplishing really silly stuff because it is not particularly limited to its weapon choice. So, and there's also nothing saying that a character needs to be micro in order to pull it off. So you can conceivably have your knife miniaturized by the Lumen Corp for 250 extra credits, so that it is roughly the size of a scalpel, and play those dudes from Matrix 2.
I want to
man,
shoot
they
down
gotta-
Thermopop.
You gotta put a bayonet on it so it has like an extra each.
So
with the
Net on everything.
you can miniaturize the
Even
Tremor
if I shields.
pick.
Oh.
can you miniaturize land weapons?
No, actually, it's
No.
written
Okay.
Yeah.
that it's non-land stuff.
Yeah, I think that they aren't allowed to do that because of situations that would come up. I
It's a
do
little
like the
awkward.
idea of like going out to like fancy dinner parties and you see people wearing like earrings with little like ornate looking weapons on them, and then you find out, oh, that actually shoots.
Here's a question. So the lumen shrinking, does it takes things down to micro scale? However, does it actually specify how many side steps that is?
No.
Because what would a large weapon become? Would that be a handgun size?
Well, it's supposed to take it down to the "why are you using this? This makes no sense" scale for regular people, because you'd have to like poke your little finger through
Okay.
the trigger guard. So before this actually hits publication, that's likely going to get like clarified that like if you wanted to use this as a full size character, you would have to employ 2 chopsticks and a prayer.
I will point out this isn't going to be an issue for my current character.
But it is a thing that is silly. Thankfully, we have addressed some of the other peasant railgun situations that have popped up so far. So
I will say
Oh, that's-
throwing was amazing at one point.
Throwing was amazing.
throwing was
Once
amazing for like a session and a half.
Encounter was ridiculous.
That
And then-
it was a strange and beautiful creature that destroyed my dragon.
Yeah, at one point, throwing basically let you put out damage on a regular basis that was equivalent to the spike damage of most of the other weapons.
It was like, oh look, this is like the spike damage of a land weapon. Why did I let the Tor throw that? You killed
That got
my
fixed.
dragons.
That got fixed. Almost
I
thought we
just-
found another one today, but unfortunately, Svi was smart and thought ahead with the rules writing.
I really wanted to see the multi bow.
The dual-handed dual bow situation.
Yes,
Yeah.
the dual-handed
If you
dual
don't
bow.
know.
Just
It is worth noting for those watching that one of the little asides for this particular session, because we're starting at a higher level, was to try to munchkin it a bit if you could. So ideas such as dual wielding bows, precision shots did pop up.
What about items, the active and passive system?
Oh, that's
And
kind of
tools in
a
general.
thing. I wasn't gonna. So there are some items here. Items just kind of have a different level of use than they used to before. There are items that are just kind of tools that you can carry a large collection of that you can use usually one time only. There are also more powerful items that you're only allowed to carry certain amounts of, like active items, which you can only have one of, or passive items, which I think you can have 3 of. And those will generally have profound effects on your combat or your day-to-day existence. So stacking them or having a whole lot of them would get really, or they're just big. That's another thing that comes along with them. That we want to limit the amount of them that you have. But the idea with a lot of this stuff is that you will eventually arrive, and it won't actually take you all that long in terms of experience, but you will eventually arrive at a character that you feel is pretty solid for the representation that you've got in your head. And then as they grow, they'll simply become better at what it is they already do. So you will pick the item that best augments your play style, and over time you'll make that stronger. You can name your equipment and your handgun and stuff like that to make it special, and then advance it so that it becomes more yours and stuff like that. That sort of thing. And I guess that's true of a lot of stuff, but I don't quite see this one in terms of like my mage isn't going to feel like my mage until I get level 6 spells kind of thing, where I can cast this one thing that I really want to cast. You can do most of the things you want to do fairly early on in this. It's just a matter of doing them well. And as you experience more, you will get better abilities to augment what you're doing.
It's like our previous campaign where it was a much lower experience level than this already felt like a fairly well-rounded, this is what I want my character to be.
Yeah, you shouldn't feel very anemic even at the starting experience level. You should feel like a pretty powerful adventurer. That's why I'm interested in seeing where we get here, because as you hit the level that we're starting at, you should be quite good at stuff. So I think we're going to have some characters who are able to bulldoze through social situations by having very strong stats and that thing. And
5D.
It's good to see happen. It is worth noting that in order to arrive at the experience level that we are beginning at for this particular campaign would take many months of play, I think, on a weekly basis.
Many months to play.
Yeah, many months of play on a weekly basis.
I think we could have probably gotten here in that one campaign we ran, but that was like we played almost a year.
Statting it up, I could rebuild that day at just between sort of this bracket and the previous bracket.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was a pretty long campaign. That was nearly yeah.
Well,
so.
and Day kind of started out a little slightly behind, I think, because she was a child anyway. So.
Yeah, because we had the younger character on it and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it would take about a year of solid play to kind of land where you are here. And there's still room to grow on these charts. If you look back at the chart that Sam had filled out there, you'll note that thing's all the way up at the top.
And the further into the chart you get, the longer it's going to take to progress.
Yeah, things get more expensive as they get up there.
Yeah, they get like really expensive.
Oh, Foozing's getting here right as we finish up.
So for weapons and armor, I have decided to go with an Alcon.
Mm-hmm.
And then to follow that up, because of the idea, I'm going with an AER.
Okay.
Energy weapons for the win and heavy armor all the way.
Nice.
Cool. So you were doing the heavy weapon for the Okay.
I was looking for a backup weapon just in case, and
we haven't used that before, so that'd be interested to see where that
It's
goes.
always good. I would like to point out, you gave me a weapon one time, and I have never gone back to it.
that gun sucked. That gun hurt.
No, that gun was awesome.
If you ever want to play with something called the friendly
micro
fire,
gun?
yeah, the micro gun where it's like the pinpointer
The
that
light
shoots
show.
lightning across the freaking room and arcs across every target it hits. It's like freaking disaster written all over it. And I was like, "Hey Sam, here's this awesome cool gun. I'm gonna gift to you." And I'm sitting there staring at it and going, "I'm gonna get mauled by the party." Session later,
you're gonna
getting
get
mauled by the
bear.
party.
A saber-toothed hyena.
Everybody was in full of close combat characters.
There it is, arc. I kept rolling the freaking arc over and over and over again.
Just put notoriety on it, call it the sheave, you're all good.
Yes. Good.
I love some of these weapons, have some of the most fun little abilities on them, but God, the light show, I had so much hope for you, and then you betrayed me. You betrayed me over and over again.
Some combinations of equipment will mesh better with certain parties than others.
It is definitely worth knowing your parties. So one of the things that I wanted to put into this system, just like the last one, was an emphasis on cover. And I think cover is definitely stronger than it was before. There's less to keep track of this time. Cover doesn't have hit points anymore, and the way that it affects your combat is very easy to see, and influences the overall damage potential that you've got. Also, playing well with your team members is another thing here. So many of these weapons will have positive or negative effects depending on who is close, who is far away, and what people are doing with each other to help them out. And you definitely don't want to just arbitrarily buy if you can avoid it, or if you do, you want to make sure your party knows what you're carrying, because if you have things like the light show and melee characters, they are bound to get caught in the arc. So or even just shotguns, which always shoot out in a trio of hexes nearby. That's probably going to hit somebody else in close combat. So want to be a little cautious about having too many of these things. Friendly fire is a thing.
It's like, if you're gonna play with grenades, guys, remember when you throw them into close combat, their party members might be there.
Ah.
They are expensive.
I like how I'm scrolling through and somebody's like, the hive! I saw it! Miniature explosions!
You never got to use that, did you, Sam?
No, I never got to use the hive. The hive, I think was that the one with the nanites that go forth and start eating?
Yeah,
No,
it does
those are the ones that
progressively.
go forth and boom.
Oh,
Does
right.
progressively more damage.
Yeah, which one was the one with the nanites that just go forward and start disassembling?
No, it's that.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, I mean they're micro explosives, but that's what it does.
Okay.
Yeah.
I kept thinking they were just going out with like little buzz saws and meow.
Slowly stacks up damage.
I want to find a notorious teleporter snapshot. And just have it. The story was it belonged to a notorious criminal that fled into the oceans of freaking Europa, never to be seen again.
Our cog that sank to the depths, but left his teleporter behind.
I have a notorious bow now. I've called it the Diddy.
It should be called P Diddy because it's pretty Diddy.
It is a pretty bitty.
Pretty bitty Diddy.
A pretty bitty Diddy.
I will point out the very first notorious item ever in the system was
The Purge Wave. Yes.
The Herd Wave.
Yeah, has the Purge Wave been updated?
Well, it's just that it runs off different rules now, but it still does what it kind of did before.
Okay.
Yeah, your launch is no longer
It's just
safe.
without Blackheart constantly running the Purge Wave, I kind of lost track of the Purge Wave, because I remember he wanted like a shotgun Purge Wave and he wanted a land Purge Wave.
It's only for one character. Lyra was happy with her shotguns.
Mm-hmm.
And Sparky.
Is there anything else you want me to bring up, Zev? Because I'm pretty much character ready.
Scrolling through things there. No, I was actually checking to see the Purge Wave was in here. It's not. The public location
We have the bigger version.
Yeah, we have the larger Purge Wave.
Where's the larger Purge Wave?
That is his
The
current
public
weapon?
location system.
Is that the waveform? No.
That's the
Sticky
public
gun.
vacation system.
No, nobody cares about that.
It's in heavy weapons.
Because I needed a little knowledge as well. Can we talk about notoriety on things other than weapons and such?
Yeah, so certain surgeries and items can also get it. The typical guidance is that it needs to have a damage table associated if it's going to be a weapon notoriety. So you can actually, there are some surgeries that do things like weaponize your claws and things like that, and you can actually apply notoriety to that, which gives them more damage. Sorry, I'm using the wrong word, advancement to that, which gives them more damage and indicates that you use them fairly exclusively in combat. So I think you had picked up the stronger claws, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you can apply it to that. It's actually spent in experience when it's a natural thing as opposed to cash.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's 5 experience per level.
Which is handy, as I have 20 XP left over that I can't spend.
There you go. You can toss it in there. So max 1 is 4.
What about trying to apply it to armor?
I don't think it No, it does apply to armor. Yeah.
Yeah, you can apply it to armor.
Yeah.
It gives you an extra armor AP up as if you had taken the AP up on the growth list.
I don't know
Yeah.
why I'm
And
asking
then-
about armor, but
Yeah, I'm not
then
sure. You
for
can't hurt me.
Well, for every one you have in it, you also recover an additional 5 if you use anything to repair the armor, or anyone else does.
Yeah.
Um,
recovers faster.
also expendable items. You can apply it to those as well, correct?
Yeah. So if you've got items that normally are one use only, every level of advancement will allow you to use it more than once. And that is also true of grenades for those of you who are of the grenadier persuasion. So if you put advancements into grenades, you can then for every grenade that you buy, you essentially get multiple uses out of it.
I will admit, the idea of a multi-use grenade just seemed really funny and weird. It exploded. Allow me to go pick it up and get it.
Yeah, pretty much. Some of it does require some hand wavium, but it is the idea that you are more efficient, or you're able to find sources that will sell them to you for less, or things like that. It is specific to the grenade. It doesn't apply. Like, you don't just advance grenade. You have to advance hotspot grenade or ghost gel or whatever it is that you want to do. But if you want to have a character, grenades are fairly expensive if you keep buying them every time, because they're not terribly accurate. They bounce off of stuff and they roll over and things like that. So your chances are pretty high of missing with one. If you plan on being a grenadier, aside from picking up the certifications that make you better at it, you will also want to advance your grenades so that you can get multiple uses out of each purchase. That will make life better for you.
So it can be applied to some surgeries and so on.
Mhm.
While it would be somewhat pointless for some characters because there is a cap of 10, could you apply this to reclaimed agility?
Oh, what for the plus
The evasion
one
score,
for evasion?
yeah.
Nah. Yeah, there's no precedent for that.
Damn.
Yeah. I actually think everybody's going to have fairly high evasion scores in this game. I'm interested in seeing where we land. Do you guys know? Do you have it written down yet?
Mine will be 9 because I've got that and no armor on.
I somehow get the feeling I'm going to be on the low end, and I have a 7.
I have
So
a 5 currently.
Yeah, I don't think we have any. Oh, wait. Is Cronos an actual large character?
I'm not large. I'm eventually going to be large.
Okay, when Cronos gets to large, I think he
Yeah,
will be
that
the
also
lowest.
Well, Toby's currently 5. Toby, you didn't get any evasion ups or anything?
I'm still going through my certifications because
Okay.
certifications come
Yeah.
after equipment.
Yeah.
So I haven't been
there's-
looking at them.
If you want 2 really good suggestions, Toby, there's in the durable tree, you get durable and solid footing that reduces armor mass by 1.
Yeah,
And then the
I'm
armor
looking at
thing,
that.
yeah. If you
I'm
take
looking at
light
that
armor
wind
and
strength
then,
as well.
well, can you take what's that? I thought it was lower than.
It's 2 or lower.
Micro. Oh yeah, okay. It is. But the other thing you can do is you can pick up tailored. I forget which bracket it is because I have light armor, depth shield balance tailored. It increases your evade and heavy armor by 1, and you can also pick up braced, which will increase your damage reduction by 1 level. So you get 2 damage reduction.
Yeah, I already picked up race.
It should be in the center. You should definitely pick up tailored then, if you've got that already.
Chaos, right now there aren't any specific power armors.
Yeah, active armor does have its own rule set. So active armor runs differently than it did in 1.0. It actually goes into combat in a very different way, which I'm going to be running as a bad guy, I think, against you guys at some point, because we haven't run it in a little while.
That's what I should use.
It kept up. Oh, you could put yourself in a bucket.
Just pour you into power armor?
Yeah, that could be a thing. And once you got out of it, you'd still be like really tough to hit.
Yeah.
Just put her in living armor. It's fine.
She go into the active armor. Actually, I don't think she can. New blood.
I can't. I've got new blood.
Yeah, new blood won't talk to the living armor. But the which is the thing.
Yeah, she's not tasty enough anymore.
The active armor runs off a power system that is part of it, so you can actually dictate your dice rolls and bonuses based on the power system that goes into it. It is capable of very reliable damage, which is nice in a dice-based game. But you sacrifice a few things too when you use it. You're very durable. You have an active shield, which is really good at cutting damage that comes in. You can be very quick. You can have very reliable damage. But most of the stuff that you get through certifications, the stuff that makes your character like individually a good fighter, doesn't translate to the machine, because the machine is only as good as the machine is built. So a lot of those bonuses will not help you inside active armor.
By the way, Svi, I wanted to ask since I just remembered about it. The PPC, is it single use per? It doesn't actually say anywhere in there if it is or not. So.
I think so. What page?
139.
I found it. Yeah, it's
It does. Okay. Figured I'd ask because it doesn't actually mention in there single use or not.
Yay. I am just
Alright.
looking at random stuff now.
So with that all in there, I suppose we can look to the chat and see if anybody has any questions.
Oh, don't forget about focuses.
Oh yeah, we didn't. Well, I mentioned it earlier, but we haven't really looked at either the certifications or the focuses yet. Sam, if you want to scroll over to those just to show some people what they look like.
Okay, I gotta figure out where they are.
They're down toward the bottom of the book.
I
All the
know
lists are
farther.
down at the bottom.
There's
So
weapons.
focus abilities and certifications are
1997.
two sides of the same coin. Focus abilities are things that are used out of combat. Certifications are abilities that are used inside combat. Focus abilities are once per episode abilities that allow you to do fancy stuff like bypass rolls or get people to believe you or all kinds of fun things like that. Most of them are either adaptations of the earlier ones or they have their new ones. There were a couple new ones that put in there too, but they're all specific in that they were out of combat now as opposed to being both. So if you're looking for what section you should be kind of like focusing on, depending on your character, then if you plan on being the skill character and stuff, you want to be looking more at focuses. And if you plan on being the combat character, you want to be looking at more at certifications.
I am a third character.
But the focus abilities can also be advanced using the notoriety system, and that allows you to use them more than once per session, or more than once per episode, which can be really cool for some of these.
Oh, this actually brings up something I needed to ask you about.
Mm-hmm.
Engineering. There is no listing for field engineer, but if you go down into engineering, it's still there.
For the focus abilities, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably just forgot to type it in.
Okay. So, but it's still there, right? You
Jot it
didn't get
down.
rid of it,
Yeah.
right?
Well, if it's down there in the little descriptions, then yeah, it's in there.
Okay. Because I was like sitting there going, did it go away? It's important for me to know.
Ooh. The benefits to having multiple focuses is in the same pod. I had not noticed that before.
Yeah, that was some incentive to use those.
Oh, damn you!
Yeah, that's actually why I was telling you I was having a hard time, because I kind of wanted to get doctorate, but I felt like I should really just do one more in engineering, because then I get that bonus to repair. But I don't think I really need it because I already have a lot. But it's kind of one of those things of I kind of like to have.
Just in case.
Mm-hmm.
Let's let me write that down so that I keep track of what I'm missing there.
Oh, I need to get 2 more focuses. God damn you, Svi.
You'll find a way.
What makes
that's
me sad
because
is the
Allie's
automatic
nature.
success ones don't. You need 7 abilities it's 7 abilities or advancements. Okay.
Yes.
It's a combination of either or.
Okay.
So if you advance them,
okay, so if I actually do one
Yeah.
advancement into that, I'm okay. Because I was like sitting there going, oh man, I was looking at recall because I was like, man, it'd be so cool to have logic as an automatic success thing. But there's only like 5 abilities. I'm like, how would I get 7?
Yeah, you'd have to advance a couple.
I should advance my doctorate just in case we need to get into multiple facilities in one session.
I hate you for that. I also hate Zvi for the other thing I see in credentials, but I also love him for it.
What?
Boyfriend on Ganymede.
Boyfriend on Ganymede.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
How
Essel.
can you not have that as an option?
Poor Essel. Guys, ever tell you about my boyfriend on Ganymede?
Oh,
Here's his picture.
Okay,
Only
so-
all the time.
Ignore the fact that he looks like every other person that comes with the wallet.
It came with a frame boyfriend.
if I drop a proficiency point from both Express and Manipulate, yeah, and then pick up 2 more focuses in the same tree as Doctorate, I get a Simplify on Express and Manipulate, which is sort of like regaining those proficiency points, and then I get 2 bonuses.
It's efficient. Look
And
at
it's
that.
efficient. I like it.
Oh.
I think I'll do that. Oh, new levels of thinking, sweet don't.
Yeah, Silence. Some of those would probably be good for grotto backgrounds if that's what you wanted to do with it. Again, you are able to be fairly flexible with any of those backgrounds if you want to, but I would say so.
You could also alternatively use impoverished.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on how you want to approach it.
Yeah, you can go military. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways depending on how you want to describe where you came from. Some of them may still have some corporate connection.
Isn't tragic a backstory also? Or
Tragedy, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Tragedy,
Tragedy. Tragedy.
the positive tragedy.
Come on, we should have just had somebody take minions and advance them. Let's focus.
For multiple mini nations.
Good God.
Jeeves.
I just
Jarvis?
love how it'll do is a certification. Some of these names are just great.
Always entertaining and fun to say MacGuffin muffins.
Yeah, that's a good
It's
one.
sad that nobody picks that. It's like my favorite thing.
I don't remember what that one is.
And granted, it's situational. It allows you to basically assign plot importance to a random item. It's good for if somebody's trying to take that thing from you. Like, I don't know, is Sam possibly in a game where they were supposed to be trying to hide an object and were worried that people were going to take it?
Hate you.
I should take diffuse and just give people
Why
timeouts.
is it you always use me as the examples?
Because Sam is best example.
Oh,
but anyway.
Because you are an
no
example.
places playing with Sam.
Ah, that's a short joke. I get it.
Oh. Oh.
All right. Well, Sam has gone into scroll mode, which is
Yep,
what to do. But that
not
is
even
basically
letting
it.
anybody read now. That's how this is going.
Yeah.
They have to suffer because I suffer.
So that is it.
Oh,
That is the end of it. Again, the part of this that will take any degree of time is that experience purchase section. But by going through the, I know that I don't want my character to consist of having 3 stats with no dice in them. You can really bypass the major mathematics concerns that might be associated with spending those experience points, because they will all get used up in an easy fashion. So if somebody, Sam, is your experience sheet done? Do you have everything written down in it? Or is your regular character sheet done so we can show people what the numbers on it?
Okay, what do you want to see?
A done experience or done character sheet.
Oh, yeah, I'll move my Excel spreadsheet over. Let me see if I can get that to show up properly. If it will.
Oh no, the actual character sheet.
Oh,
You
I
didn't
don't
write
have
them
that
in there,
done
did you?
yet. Does anybody have theirs actually done? Because do you know how long it takes me to fill
I'm
one
not
of
the
these?
one streaming.
I can't write that quick on this.
Yes, you can. I believe in you.
Every time I start to write in the little box, my brain tells me
Okay,
you're writing
we should
bad.
point out the actual character sheet is very nice. However, it is tricky to use in a digital format.
Yeah, it is.
If
it
you
is-
print it out, it works wonderfully.
Yeah. Okay, so let me. I'm
Looking at it, since it is there on the screen, you would write down the number of dice that you're rolling for any particular stat there
There's
in
threes.
the cores there. So you
I'm
can
not
see them
filling
being
that
written
all
down. To do it, you can jot down your certifications and your focus abilities. All right, there. And then in the bottom right, you can see that little grid. That is basically your experience purchase sheet so that you can see at a glance to make sure that you're keeping track of where you are purchasing on the grid. So you just kind of fill in those dots so that you know that you are where you're supposed to be.
By the way, let's
overall
kick it a
points and
few
stuff.
times in case anybody can't tell what I wrote there. Oh man, you gotta make me write all my certs.
Oh, you don't have to write it all down, son.
Yeah, I have like 8 of these.
Switch it over to your Excel one.
No, I'm getting this. Okay. Wait.
Switch it over to the Excel
Oh,
one.
okay, I
So
got
I think
this.
a lot of people are going to be using that anyway.
No, they're not. They're gonna be using yours. Okay, so my readiness in medium armor, it goes down by 1, so it's 5. My movement is 5. My armor mass is 0. No, it's 1. Okay. Yeah, because my total mass is 2.
Oh yeah, because you were doing medium and you don't have a set to take away.
No, I have it. It's just the mass doesn't change. My evade score goes up.
Yeah, evade score goes up.
That's the trick. Is my evade score is still a 9, but my mass is a 2. That's where he gets me. That's where he gets me. Okay, I have this many hit points. That's not many hit points, guys.
No?
That's
Why not?
Not many hit points. Okay. Well, alright, now I'll go back to filling in the rest of this in. Okay.
If you see the part up there by character name that says Penny Whistle, I want you all to know that that is actually unacceptable.
Wow.
Just want to, toss that out there. You might have thought that was okay. It's not okay to have a character named Penny Whistle. Sam's gonna do it anyway. It's not okay though.
So, just
Oh,
to
look! I have a boon in Express and a Stutters V. Take that.
So you're saying a character name like Penny Whistle is unacceptable?
I should hide my misanthrope character sheet.
What about a character whose name...
I can point out that Hatdan's about to tell you something that's going to anger you.
I have a feeling this is also unacceptable, Hatdan.
Would you prefer Ricardo, Iago, Carlito, Hernando, Augusto, Rodrigo, Domingo, Wilfredo, Ernesto, Ignacio, Santiago, Salvador III?
That is better.
What is it with you and these long run-on character names, Hatdan?
No, that was
binary.
If you take a look at the initials of that character,
how
it spells Richard.
No, it spells Richard Weiss.
Wow.
3, because it was the third.
Oh, I was going to ask what
Richard.
the T.
Yep. Yeah. It's 3.
It's the third one.
Yeah.
It's okay, Z. I've almost got this.
Richard.
By the time Hatdan's figured out his weapon, I will have finished this.
Oh yeah, most probably.
I figured out my weapon.
Sam, what armor were you wearing?
I'm wearing the ONR.
Oh.
Yeah, it's light armor, right?
No, it's medium.
Oh, it's medium. Okay, yeah.
It's medium. Sam knows.
So much confidence in the.
I don't feel any love here.
The person who wrote it there.
I'm not feeling the loves. Okay, I have how many boons? I have this many boons. Alright, I have this many certs.
So, Svi, if I get the range extension on a tremor pole, have I basically just taped the second tremor pole to the tremor pole I have?
Pretty much. You've Goku'd the stick.
Sweet.
Okay.
It's like, so you had a regular stick, and then you took one of those collapsible toy lightsabers and had it to the end?
Does it still have the sound effects?
Yes.
Excellent.
It absolutely does.
I'll put a strobe band on it.
Oh, of course.
Oh, I would like to point out, I have an ability which might be interesting to some people. At least it's interesting to Sam. See, I chose to take Shed as an ability I can do in combat, which means if my armor gets damaged, I can drop out of it very quickly. This is good for me, only because of the fact that I have a new reclaim ability called Reclaimed Agility. When I'm not in armor, my evade goes up.
giving her the highest possible evade in the game.
Yes.
So when you strip, you can avoid damage a lot easier.
It's really the rule that every RPG has. If you're naked, you're safe.
Less armor, more defense.
Yeah.
This only applies because you're a female character.
No, it applies to male
doesn't seem
characters
to
too,
work
actually.
like that.
Have you seen Conan?
Yeah, you get a point there.
Works on all of them.
It's true. It's
Or
all-
Final Fantasy 14?
Then again,
That's a fair
Conan
game.
wasn't really so much that he avoided damage as he just had a really high con.
He did. Especially, I'm playing Conan. I'm not going to be trying to avoid getting hit so much as I will just tank the damage to my air quotes flesh.
See,
Yeah,
now I'm
that's-
gonna have to have you get in a close combat fight with a camel.
Oh, sweet. Punch out a camel.
Oh man, those things spit.
Not if you punch them.
See, I hate
No,
filling
then they
this
really
out
spit.
because of the fact that I hate my handwriting and I really should be writing smaller. And if there was like a text thing and I could type, that would be so much better.
What are you using?
Your
Scythe?
foot writing.
Yeah.
There is a text thing.
Where is it?
I don't know.
I hate you.
Aw, it's so nice.
All right. Well, I technically have it done.
All right, thank you. So this is it, technically done.
They haven't written the passive abilities for Haunted.
Shut up. Shut up.
The only thing that is not on here is attack score. So the attack score up there in the upper right
Oh.
is a way of determining the overall kind of damage value of your character, so that the guide can use it as a reference point for staging fights, in order to give you challenging fights that are of the scale that you want for characters. And there's a little way to calculate that in the sheet that we're running with.
Also, we've been discussing attachments to weapons without actually saying they're attachments to weapons.
Oh yeah, you can attach things to weapons.
You can put
I
things
modify
on
them.
attached to my weapon.
Crafting is a more robust thing than that was in 1.0 by a long shot. There's lots of stuff you can do with crafting that are built in, from generating weapons from different scraps. You can generate upgrades for weapons, generate armor. You can even build vehicles and power armor and stuff like that using crafting. You can also repair things,
Sam
which
wanted
is
to
pretty
make living
important.
armor.
So your longevity through additional sorties is pretty important to have somebody around who can repair stuff, and also good to have somebody around who can heal you. Both handy things to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Healing does take longer than crafting, so it's not quite like I'm just going to slap you with a heal rod and everything's going to be fine. If you start taking actual damage, it is more difficult to stay in a fight than if you're just taking armor damage. As is intended. So that is a deal to look out for. Sam's attack score is pretty hefty. I'm wondering what we're all going to land on that, because we have such big characters now.
Right.
I can tell you mine.
What is it?
30.
Nice. This is pretty big.
Don't know mine yet.
We'll have to look into it. So most starting characters start at like 13.
I'm about to say like half of mine is shirts because of 13.
Right. So that is where we will hold up for now. Hopefully you all enjoyed this. I believe this recording will be up for a while, so if people want to check it out, they can listen to our shenanigans and take a peek at the document that we're working with. And we will be continuing to play through this campaign on a weekly basis. And you can tune in here and check it out and see this stuff in action. Yeah,
Did
what were you gonna say?
we decide if we're gonna know each other ahead of time, right?
A little bit. I'm gonna stage something that puts us in a similar location with a little thing. But if you guys want to have some pre-established relationships, that's fine too. You don't need to not know each other.
Oh,
Okay.
'cause, I mean, if you don't want us to know each other, I guess at the very least, Allie's character is kind of infamous because she traumatized children. So that's kind of a big
Enlightened.
deal.
Well,
Imagine
it's
if Bill
good to
Nye had
know-
just suddenly turned into the Thing while on air.
It's good to know that it's Allie who's traumatized the children in this game, rather than Sam traumatizing them with whatever they did to,
Well,
you know.
I pretty much just
the
spent the
character's
last
mother.
year traumatizing, I think, children. I mean, between Daydreamer, Lonnie, Beauregard to a degree, and then Cindy and Mindy. I've had my plate full of
Plus
traumatizing.
50 others.
Shut up.
Those might have been
I'd like to point out there were slightly less than 50 others.
Okay.
The rest of them couldn't
46
live
because
long
one of them. No, 47 because one of them died.
It was a very traumatic moment before they ceased to be traumatized anymore, though.
Yes, that was true.
Fair warning to the stream, it's going to be a sad time.
Oh, great. So the bar has been set.
It's a lighthearted game.
All right.
It might not be. It might not be a sad time. We have done many a sad game, and the plot is not yet written. So
Slice of life.
It's one of those games where the plot's not written and the points don't matter, guys. It'll be fine.
the points do matter, actually, but
Yeah,
the plot is still not
No,
written.
see, I was trying to make a Who's Line joke.
I know, but I undid it.
That's not allowed. Okay, so do you want me to
Bye,
stop
everyone.
the stream now? Okay, I guess I'm stopping the
All right,
stream now.
yes. Ta-ta for now, folks. We will catch in at the same bad time, same bad channel.
Yes.
And then I will
Yeah.
get Allie's icon properly fixed or whatever it is that she's actually going to be.
I'll change my mind like 5 times
Yeah,
before they don't worry.
it's
Yeah,
like
fair enough.
every time I change it, you're like, no, I've decided not that. So okay.
Fair warning,
Yeah,
next game you may actually see an entirely different cast of characters. From the
Yeah,
ones you just
actually
released.
going to be a new Richard. He's going to be something else.
I miss
don't know.
Richard already.
Yeah.
Okay, close
This
the
is
stream.
because Sam always wanted to play with
Close
Richard
your
and hasn't
stream.
gotten the chance yet.